Test.
Did we lose sound
That's what I
again?
did.
Back there.
I went to Rocky Mountain Cancer.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will convene the May 4th, 2017 meeting of the Colorado Parks and Wildlife Commission. And as always, we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, if everybody's ready. So maybe, there we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So I think we should, for the record, have Adrian, if you need to do your electronics, you can log, or we can take a roll call.
Yeah,
Let's just
absolutely.
take a roll call on attendance, and then please amend it as others. I think Commissioner Zimmerman's en route, as is Commissioner Horn. And then we'll speak also to the fact that some of our senior staff is duly occupied at the state legislature today.
Bray,
Yes.
Horn is absent. Howard,
Yes.
Heisel,
Here or yes?
Vigil,
Here.
Wingfield,
Yep.
Zimmerman is absent. Zip,
Here.
and Chairman Preble.
I am quite pleased to be here, present, and all faculties working. So let me say personally, thank you to fellow commissioners and staff, many of you that sent well wishes during my recent surgery and recovery. I was telling somebody that if I were to estimate my level of strength physically, as I sit here, it's less than half of what it was before because I'm still recovering in terms of stamina and strength. That said, I think my mental capacity is greatly improved because because I've got a full flow of oxygenated blood running to my head, which may not have been a case before the surgery. So in any case, thank you for your good wishes. And we also should make note of much of our senior staff, Director Broscheid, Jeff Versteeg, Reed DeWalt, our CFO, Justin, and whom else is
Margaret
that?
Taylor.
Margaret Taylor. Many are all at the state legislature today. We have a hearing this afternoon on the fiscal sustainability legislation, and they will be covering that, hopefully successfully for us. And then we'll be jetting over here behind the wheel, and for hopefully they can join us in time for the community barbecue this afternoon. If you take note of the schedule, we're going to, I guess the first formal item is the minutes from the previous meeting. But please take note, we have added for this afternoon, in part because we had to rearrange some of the schedule, much as to tomorrow, to ensure that the sportsman community, which wanted to participate both, obviously, in the legislative hearing on the fiscal bill, as well as the discussion tomorrow. So this afternoon, we have added a tour of Highline State Park, which is very nearby, literally, what?
Yikes.
Sound system issues, sorry. Okay. Test. Okay, go ahead.
Adrian, I want you to note I have a pacemaker as well. So, I surely hope those radio waves you're sending don't affect my, so if I start babbling incoherently up here, I hope that there's somebody that will take note.
Something's different.
Oh, that's, that's a good one. Anyway, take note of the tour of Highline State Park, beautiful facility and area. We're going to, it's optional, listed as optional. I think we want a show of hands to know, therefore, how many vehicles to line up. So give it some thought, and we'll ask for a show of hands. in the next hour or so we can give Ron Velarde and his team a heads up on that. So, first piece of business is the minutes from the March 1st and 2nd meeting of the commission.
So moved to approve as presented.
Commissioner Bray moves, Pizel second, to approve the minutes from the March 1st, 2nd commission meeting. This is going to be just simply a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Motion approved. Next item, corrections to the agenda or removal of any consent agenda items. Anybody have anything they want to say? Commissioners want to propose or do or say? Hearing none, well, the agenda stands. Next item is commissioners' questions and comments. And tell us what you've been up to for the good of the cause the past 2 months, and including recreational travel that is befitting a commissioner. I understand that our best fly fisherman led a delegation to New Zealand, as an example. Commissioner Zip.
More truthfully, I led the Zip family to New Zealand to do most everything one can do in New Zealand except fish. But it was a great trip, and I'm happy to report though that I think the fishing in Colorado is much more accessible, and certainly, in my opinion, as nothing short of exceptional. So I'm happy to be back and actually catching fish here in the beautiful state of Colorado.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Howard.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman. I knew I had one change on the minutes, but I just noticed, just proofing it, I think in the point where Commissioner Zimmerman was appointed to GOCO, I think she's actually filling Mr. Kane, Commissioner Kane's seat, not Mr. Castillion's. I think that's just a tiny, minor thing, if we need to re-vote on that, but. And I apologize for not getting that out when you started. The other thing I was just going to bring up is I have.
So that begs the question, though. Kane and Castillion were our two representatives to GOCO.
No, I was.
Or you are?
Yeah.
Okay, excuse me. That's right. So, okay, so we got it correct then.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have had a lot of trips. The one that I just thought I'd bring up was I did get to go to the Sportsman's Roundtable in Glenwood, which was, I think, the second time I've been, and really an interesting meeting. It was full. I don't think there was any place to sit, including in the, anybody else would have had to sit on the floor. So, and I think the thing that's most relevant was I was expecting to hear a lot of different viewpoints on the financial sustainability bill, and we really had tremendous support across the sportsman's world, and all the different splits and differences of opinion and interest groups within sportsmen, and so I was really pleased by that, and it was a really interesting all-day conversation, and I know we have some open meetings issues if more than one commissioner shows up at the round table, but I would encourage any of my fellow commissioners, if you get the chance to go, it's really an interesting group, and they're big supporters of CPW. They have lots of opinions about CPW that all come out, so it's a sort of a great way to get all those viewpoints as opposed to just on a rifle shot phone call when someone's angry or got a complaint. So I really had a good time at that meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. Others, surely people have been up to some mischief. Mr. Zip.
I just wanted to add, while I was in New Zealand, the Pueblo area in particular was hit by a very powerful windstorm, and I'm sure most of you here have seen some of the pictures at the marina of sunken boats, and I just wanted to commend CPW staff and Monique Mullis and her staff there of really working hard and fast to get the park cleaned up, and also the private concessionaires there at the North Shore Marina and South Shore Marina are open, not fully, back to pre-storm level. There's that's going to take some time, but the marinas are operating, and I think they got there very expeditiously. So I wanted to commend them for their efforts. It's as we all know, one of the most popular water recreation spots in the state. So just thankful that a storm came in March and not July. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioners, any dialogue about our legislation? Mr. Vigil?
Yes, Commissioner Bray, Zimmerman, and myself went through a confirmation hearing. It was interesting. The topic that we expected, or I did, was the financial sustainability bill. But it was really one senator who kind of pounded us on the predator study for mule deer. But in the end, we were confirmed unanimously by the Senate Ag Committee.
Can you,
And prior to that meeting, I actually had a meeting with Senator Garcia. I met with him in a closed room for about a half an hour, talking about the financial sustainability bill, and it was not real successful in the end. But we walked away as okay. I mean, but we'll never expect a positive vote from Senator Garcia, unfortunately.
and we won't hold Commissioner Vigil responsible for that in any way.
Well,
Given how we know how diplomatic and genteel you are, and Mr. Garcia had dug himself into a corner earlier.
Well, he had a few other phone calls before I sat down and met with him, and he noted that, and he seemed a little agitated by that, but that's his job.
Can you illuminate what the senator's concern was about the predator study? Can you give us a little more detail around that?
Well, I think he spent the first 5 minutes of reading the Denver Post article and maybe other articles. He was a senator from the Boulder area. And so he quoted the CSU biologists and thought we should follow them and not our own biologists, I suppose. But that was the brunt of it. And so Commissioner Bray and myself responded to the comments.
Well, just as we're certainly not going to hold you responsible for Mr. Garcia, we're not going to hold the chairman responsible for the senator from Boulder.
Agreed.
No, actually, I think he's from Longmont, but he represents Boulder.
Was it Fenber?
Jones.
Oh, Matt, for Pete's sakes. Well,
He was polite,
Yeah,
but
no. Matt's got a long history on these issues. And actually, he and I talked about the very same issue in a much more cordial setting called the Waterloo, which is in Louisville, right in this district. So I'm not surprised. Anybody else have any discussion about contacts or visits with legislators or others, interest groups, stakeholders, whatever? I'm trying to stretch this out so we fill our agenda here a little bit. If you're all characteristically shy. Well, that would bring us then to Amy Moyer, representing Robert Randall at the Department of Natural Resources. And Amy, since this is the first time we've seen you, perhaps you could give us just a minute of self-introduction.
Sure. Amy Moyer, Policy Advisor with the Department of Natural Resources, and I will be here on behalf of Bob Randall, who's unable to join us today, and then Madeline West, who is out on maternity leave. So I am really excited to be here. This is my first time actually attending a CPW commission meeting. I've been at DNR since 2013. I started in the budget shop, moved over to the policy side in 2015. But I will go ahead and get started on my report. Many of you may have followed this in the news and the tragedy that occurred in Firestone, Colorado. But DNR and the Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission have been working closely with the Frederick Firestone Protection District in response to the recent home explosion and fire. It was determined earlier this week that the cause of the explosion was the result of unrefined, not odorized gas that infiltrated the soil and then the French drain and sump pit. It was due to an abandoned flow line that was still attached to an oil and gas wellhead that was also cut near the foundation. So in response to those findings, the governor and the COGCC have issued a directive to all oil and gas operators that requires an inspection of existing flow lines within 1,000 feet of occupied buildings within 30 days, and then to be tested for integrity within 60 days. In addition, lines that have either been abandoned or are not in use need to also be inspected within 30 days and properly sealed within 60 days. The next step in the investigation is that the fire department will turn the investigation over to the Firestone Police Department, and then it will ultimately be turned over to the Weld County District Attorney's Office. COGCC will continue to be on site and will continue their environmental investigations, including both air and soil sampling. So moving to the legislative front, Chairman Pribble mentioned House Bill 171321, the CPW Financial Sustainability Bill, has passed out of the House but will be heard in Senate Finance later today. The Colorado Water Conservation Board Projects Bill has passed out of the House and is making its way through the Senate. This is an annual bill that will direct $164 million to implementation of the Colorado Water Plan and other storage projects. The other annual bill that we run, the Species Conservation Trust Fund, has passed and is awaiting final signatures. This bill authorizes $3.85 million for projects between CPW and CWCB. In addition to legislation, a brief severance tax update and Tier 2 funding. So right now, based on current forecasts, we're projecting Tier 2 programs to be funded at about 25%. But in addition to that, Senate Bill 17259 did pass. That authorized additional general fund dollars to 3 natural resource-related programs. For CPW, that includes the Species Conservation Trust Fund and then both the Parks and Wildlife Aquatic Nuisance Species funds. So that boost will help reduce any proportional cuts that would have occurred due to the lack in severance tax revenue coming up. On the federal front, DNR continues to follow actions being taken by both Congress and the Trump administration. Most recently, we're following the executive order that requires the Department of Interior to review national monuments that were put in place since January 1 of 1996, and that spans at least 100,000 acres. For Colorado, that would include the Canyon of the Ancients National Monument. We are encouraged, though, Governor Hickenlooper has said publicly that he was assured by Secretary Zinke that none of the Colorado monuments would be threatened, but we continue to follow the Trump administration and any actions that might occur following the review from this executive order. And then finally, Governor Hickenlooper and Director Randall are both looking forward to being back in this area in Palisade on May 20th for Cameo's first shot ceremony and the official opening. This event also falls on the inaugural Public Lands Day. So we encourage everyone to find a local event near you and to get outside and enjoy our public lands. So that concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Moyer? I have one, which is, what's the status of DNR and CPW appropriations in the long bill?
I believe the long bill I'd have to check. It's been stalled for a while. I think it's been going back and forth through conference committee, but I believe it may have come out in the last couple of days, but I would have to double check.
So do you have any insight on how the agency is being treated?
I think the agency has been, our budget has not been touched by some of the long bill negotiations. I think the only division out of DNR would be the Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission did receive some funds to backfill positions that they had been kept open due to a lack of funding, but I think DNR and CPW's budgets have remained whole through that process.
Did we get, or as predicted, lose all severance support for ANS?
So severance tax Tier 2 funding is projected to be about 25%, so proportional cut of about 75%. But due to Senate Bill 259, those programs are getting an influx of general fund to help reduce the cuts and essentially make those programs whole.
Any other questions of Amy? Mr. Zip?
Just, Amy, if you could elaborate on that Senate Bill 259 as far as timing of availability of funds. Do we have an idea of when those will actually hit the boat ramp, so to speak?
Absolutely. So those general fund dollars are set to be transferred July 1 of this year. I believe the amounts are $2.5 million to the Parks Aquatic Nuisance Species Fund, and then $1.2 million to the Wildlife Aquatic Nuisance Species Funds. I believe those dollars may be needed to backfill current operations for this fiscal year, but then we'll be able to help for the next fiscal year, help backfill some of the loss in dollars.
Great, thank you.
Seeing no other questions? Okay. Well, we're going to miss the wit and wisdom of Commissioner of Agriculture, Donald Brown. We have his able deputy here.
Yeah, Don Brown was planning on being here, but something came up last night. He sends his regrets. And just had one message he wanted me to convey, and I'll just go ahead and read this from him. This is from Don Brown. He just wanted to mention that the agriculture community's appreciation for the help from Colorado Parks and Wildlife during the fires in the northeast part of the state. He said that the extra efforts of the staff, as well as the donation of hay, were greatly appreciated. I know Regional Manager Mark Leslie isn't here, but we definitely appreciate the help that CPW staff provided for that. That's the only update I had. Deputy Commissioner Chris Wiseman or Commissioner of Ag Don Brown will be at the meeting in Pagosa, and hopefully we'll be able to grace you with his humor. He's definitely an entertaining speaker, and I'm sure they'll have a much more in-depth update at that time.
Thank you. I suspect there's no information here, but I'll ask the question anyway. Have any of the federal ag positions or appointments been made for any of the states at the state level? The USDA, Farm Services Director, Rural Economic Development, et cetera?
Yeah, I'm not sure on that. I don't have an update on that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any other questions for the Department of Ag? Well, you're making this quite easy for me today. As a prelude to bringing up Emily Orbanek and, excuse me, I got to turn this off, from GOCO, and my eyes don't see him, but somebody mentioned that Chris Castilian is here, hidden behind there, back there in the third row. Uncharacteristic modesty on the part of Mr. Castilian. So, Chris, we'd invite you as well if you would like to say a few words about your accomplishments in the first 3 weeks, which I'm sure are legendary already. And then Emily, you come on up after your boss, of course.
Yes.
But welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner
Good morning,
Castilian.
Commissioners. I will just leave it as I haven't gotten in the way of my very able and qualified staff who are here to make me look good and make my life easy. So thank you for having us here today. I think you'll enjoy the presentation that Emily and our outstanding communications team, Laura and Rosemary, are going to talk with you about a new marketing program that we're embarking on, and look forward to partnering with you guys and working with you in a different capacity.
All right, any questions for Mr. Castillion? Any upcoming GOCO events schedule we should know about? Or is that
Well,
left to
we
Emily?
we have our board meeting next month down in, or actually, yes, down in Pagosa Springs. No, that's your board meetings next month in Pagosa. Alamosa, sorry. I'm getting confused. My summer calendar is full already. And so we're down in Alamosa looking at a couple of our Inspire projects that we've got going down there, and a couple of other potential open space protect awards that we've been touring and visiting. So we're looking forward to that. And other than that, no, we've got committee meetings in about 3 weeks. Commissioner Howard and Commissioner Zimmerman have been involved with our Parks and Wildlife Committee, and looking at what we can do to help CPW get through the temporary timeout that you all are working on right now. And got some really good ideas, I think, from some of your regional managers and the leadership team at CPW to help move that ball forward. And beyond that, we've got a fall board retreat in Fruta in September, and Rosemary and Laura have been working. We've got a great Connect project over here that has been, we're going to video it and have a nice video come up. And then one of the things that we've been working on, as you know, both our friends at the Colorado Lottery, Colin sitting back there, and GOCO both turned 25 this fall. So we're trying to figure out how to appropriately celebrate that and talk about what GOCO's done with the funds that have been allocated to us over the last 25 years, which are over $1 billion now, with 1 million acres protected, and looking at some ways that we can bring back some of the folks that were involved in the creation of GOCO and have them help celebrate our anniversary, our silver anniversary. So,
Is there a date for that event, or is it a series of?
We haven't figured it out yet. So Laura and Rosemary are working on that diligently.
Any commissioner
like I'm
questions
stalling for time now for you all.
Director Castillion?
Want me to sing or dance? I can tell you, I am taking advantage of my relationship with our friends at State Parks. I'm posted up in my Airstream out at James M. Robb State Park, Island Acres, because everything on this side of town was full because of the bike race that I'm sure you'll hear about a little bit later. And it's a very lovely campground out there. Should have brought your fishing rod. We had Emily's folks over for a barbecue last night and got to visit with the Urbanic clan. And
Does that imply that you're hosting happy hour? at your
I would be more than
Airstream?
happy to, Mr. Chairman. I've got plenty of beer, or will have plenty of adult 3-2 beverages, I should say. Yes. 3-2. And we drink that on the other side of the highway and then walk back to outside of the state park boundary. But yes, come join us.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks for having me back.
Well,
Emily, are you? am I
if
done
Emily's ready, or
stalling?
do you need to
Yeah,
stall
okay.
some more for Emily?
I can kill some more time if you want.
You need to stall some more for Emily, is that?
Yeah.
When you're meeting in Alamosa?
June 15th. Yeah. We're coming down, I think, the day before for to tour the farm. What do we call that? Farm park down there? Yeah. Rio Grande Farm Park.
I'm sure you're going to invite commissioners in the vicinity.
Of course. In fact, I invited him when we were down there a couple weeks ago, but he was.
Or anybody
Sick.
else traveling through.
Yes.
Right.
You're all
Yeah.
welcome to join us. In our, yeah.
Because when,
And as you know, Commissioner Paisl's wife is very involved in a number of the organizations down in the valley and has been very helpful to us.
I'll have her come also.
And you get, well, I mean, she's already invited. You're sort of like on the cusp.
That's my life.
Yeah. All right. Emily, are you ready? Have I done enough to completely spoil you?
Doesn't really know what to
Oh,
do anymore.
should I say the waffle? You want to WAFA sponsorship. Okay. One last thing, we decided to support and sponsor the WAFA conference that's here this summer. So we're going to go in at a $10,000 level. Director Broscheid had reached out and asked if we would be interested in doing that. So GOCO will be ably represented by Emily, and I'll be carrying her bag around WAFA as well. So, all I ever do with these guys. But anyway, so yeah.
Excellent.
What else? Anything
So
else?
you're very good at it.
Okay, that's it. That's enough.
That's it for your.
Thanks, guys. Yeah.
So one last question, Chris. Are you doing the Leadville bike race or not?
I'm not. No, I'm doing a couple other
That-
ones, but not the Leadville.
As you know, he's now really going to have a chance to perfect his endurance athletic career.
Are you, because of my site visits?
Yeah,
Yes. Okay.
that and flexibility of schedule or whatever. All right, Ms. Urbanek.
Okay. Good.
Very little to say now. Yeah, we have a big crew from GOCO here today. Our communications team is going to talk to you in a little bit, Laura Cardone and Rosemary Dempsey. And also we have a board member, Tony Lewis, is with us here today as well. So made the trip over. This is a picture of the Three Sisters property, which is just west of town. There's an extensive mountain biking trail system out there called the Lunch Loops that a few of you, GOCO people included, may take advantage of while they're here, potentially over lunchtime. So GOCO has invested over $1 million in this property from acquisition to development. In Mesa County specifically, since inception, GOCO has invested over $36 million. Some of GOCO's first projects were right here in Grand Junction, including early investments in the Blue Heron section of the Riverfront Trail, key acquisitions and development of what is now the James M. Robb Colorado Riverfront State Park. Some of our first playground projects were here in the early 90s at Columbus and Columbine Elementary School, and capacity building for the Mesa Land Trust. Some more recent investments include playgrounds up at Colburn. This is one of the more recently completed sections of the Riverfront Trail, and that portion I think is near Hunting Island as well. And I know CPW is very helpful in the construction of that section in particular. As Chris mentioned, our Grand Junction Inspire Coalition has been another recent investment here. Specifically, state parks in the valley. GOCO has invested over $4 million at James M. Robb State Park, and that includes, like I said, acquisition of Island Acres and Fruita portions, as well as key state wildlife areas throughout the river corridor in the valley. And recently, boat ramp configurations and shade shelters at the Fruita section. At Highline Lake, GOCO has invested over $1 million, which includes the visitor center, key trail linkages, dredging operations. And this picture is a picture of a GOCO-funded youth corps doing work on the 18 Hours of Highline Trail, which that race kicks off tonight at midnight. And I'm sure that you'll see the festivities out there if you go on the site visit. Switching gears to future funding, at the March 23rd board meeting, the GOCO board approved CPW's FY 17-18 investment proposal, totaling just over $31.7 million. That includes 16.6 for parks and 15.1 for wildlife. And I think I mentioned a few times earlier this spring that this year's investment proposal process has been the most collaborative process that I've been a part of since my time at GOCO, and it's been a real pleasure working with Justin and his team. Some highlights that I did want to point out to you, over $9 million of important park improvements, and that includes over $1 million for the South Marina at Lake Pueblo State Park, Phase 3 development of Staunton, which is really exciting, and close to $4.5 million for spillway replacement at Sylvan Lake State Park. We're also increasing park operations and including one more park on the state park list that GOCO gives O&M money to every year. And on the wildlife side of things this year, this is the first year that GOCO has invested wildlife capital dollars in dam maintenance projects. And we've had lots of conversations at the staff level, committee level, and the board level about CPW's dam infrastructure, and we recognize that that's critical to the work that CPW does. So we're excited to fund that on the wildlife side of things this year. And that includes a fund for statewide dam maintenance and then 2 phase 1 projects on specific dams. And then, as promised, I said I'd talk a little bit about a new opportunity we created for CPW staff this year called the CPW Directors Innovation Fund. And working with Director Broscheid and all the regional managers, we were able to set aside $100,000 for CPW staff to come to GOCO directly to access small grant amounts. And we received over 31 applications requesting just under $500,000, which was pretty overwhelming for a first inaugural grant round. And the review committee was made up of 3 GOCO staff and 2 CPW staff with review and approval by Director Broscheid. And from that list of 31 applications, we were able to fund 10 really compelling projects that ran the spectrum from everything from canine training to funding a deer management plan out in Elizabeth, grouse surveys, watershed model at the Arkansas Headwaters, the Osprey shuttle at Bar Lake State Park, and our top-ranked project, the Outdoor Wilderness Lab, is a week-long science, environmental education immersion camp for 6th graders at Butcliff Middle School right here in Grand Junction. And we were actually lucky enough to visit Outdoor Wilderness Lab yesterday with some of the Northwest Regional staff. And they were learning archery. They go through this week-long programming and come out with a hunter education certificate. They learn all about environmental ethics, and it's all based to Colorado state standards. And we were really excited to get out there and talk with some of the kids and the counselors, and it was, for lack of a better word, a really, really inspiring visit, and it's amazing the work that CPW has done up there with the school district. And finally, some recent GOCO social media posts. Our outgoing Executive Director Jim Spanstra was lucky enough to go through the Conservation Leadership for Tomorrow program that Crystal Drayling has gone through, and Pat Dorsey is a instructor at, and he had a fantastic experience and did a blog post on that that had a lot of good traction. So if there's no questions for me, I will invite up our communications team to talk to you about our exciting new marketing plan.
Before you do that, is Emily's presentation in our,
No, it's not.
it's not in our PowerPoint?
No, it's
Okay.
not. We just got it.
We'll get
Okay.
it to you.
Would you
Yeah.
be sure to
Yep.
make sure it's sent to everybody, please? Good, excellent, okay.
Thanks, Emily. Hi, I'm Rosemary Dempsey, and this is Laura Carden, and we're the communications team for GOCO. Wanted to say thank you for having us here today. It's really exciting to be able to tell you a little bit about a first-of-its-kind marketing campaign, a communications program for GOCO that we're working on with an advertising firm out of Denver called Sukal Advertising. So feel free to interrupt me anytime as we go through, because there's a lot I'd like to tell you. So I think we're well aware of the reality of today's situation. When we embark on a marketing campaign of this type, we want to know that we're addressing a real need or an issue in our Colorado community. And there's been discussion for years at GOCO and at partner organizations about the increasing disconnect between children and nature. As you might know, and you've probably heard some of these stats before, children today are spending less time outdoors than any other generation before, and are devoting only 4 to 7 minutes per day in unstructured outdoor play, while spending significant amounts of time in front of electronic media or tethered to technology. And with that aside, we know that children experience a variety of benefits related to their health, well-being, and happiness their cognitive, behavioral, social, physical development are all improved by greater connections with nature and unstructured play. We also know that if we want to create a connection between the environment and children, it's better to start early. So what do? We have this situation where children today are overscreened and connected to media more than before, overscheduled. They lead busy lives and have a lot of structured activities within their family schedules, and are oftentimes overprotected by parents who are reluctant to send them far from home alone. We believe we have this opportunity, this great opportunity as GOCO and with our partner organizations, including Colorado Parks and Wildlife, to really inspire a movement to get Colorado kids outdoors more often. It won't be simple. We have a lofty goal. Our goal really is to change an entire generation of Colorado children, and we believe we have this tight connection to GOCO's mission to base it on. This is a mission-driven campaign. GOCO's mission is reliant on future generations supporting the kind of work we do and supporting our natural resources in our state. It's really connected to every part of our current strategic plan. In 2015, GOCO launched a strategic plan that will take us through the year 2020. And you might know some of this already, but as part of that, there are 3 key pillars: protect, connect, and inspire. And protect is really focused on urgent and large-scale landscape needs in the conservation space, in open space. And if we don't create a connection between children and those outdoor open spaces today, then they won't be our future environmental stewards. We also have a second pillar, connect, which is focused on closing gaps in large regional trail networks. And it's also about creating public awareness and education around accessing the outdoors that are close to home. So it's definitely related to that as well. And then the third pillar of our strategic plan is inspire. It's the cornerstone of our strategic plan. And it shares the common goal with Generation Wild of connecting Colorado kids out to the outdoors more often. So you can see how this campaign came to life as a part of our mission and plan.
Rosemary, could you just comment a little bit, assuming you have the numbers, as I recall at Connect, we pretty much spent most of that, right? Isn't one of the 3 prongs, we're sort of towards the end of it?
We are about to have the third and final round of Connect, I believe. Second. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, so we are on the final round of our Protect funding and close to we're in the second round for Connect out of probably 3, right? Or,
2 more rounds.
Yeah.
And 2 more rounds of Connect.
Thanks. Thank you.
We have spent a lot of the $46 million that was designated for Protect.
Right. Yeah, so we're basically in the middle of the strategic plan right now and in our funding rounds and expenditures. But in some of the programs, we've expended a significant amount of the funding available. And
I just think that's important for the commission to realize that it's not, even though it's a 5-year plan, a lot of the money is out the door.
Right.
And in some of the target
That's a good
areas,
point.
it's mostly spent, so.
Right. And as far as Inspire goes, which is the third program, we awarded the first round of funding in, we awarded planning grants first to multiple coalitions, but then the first major round of funding for implementation of the plans went out in December to 6 Tier 1 coalitions, and that was totaling $13.5 million. So we're just over halfway through that funding as well, headed into the second round of funding for that program, which will happen late this year. Yeah. We really believe that there's this opportunity to use moms as a primary target audience in our campaign for many reasons. Within their families, moms act as instigators, the glue, the schedulers, the planners, the chief experience officer for the family. And so we went in with a hunch that they would be our primary target, and then we conducted an ethnographic research study across the state with the help of our firm. We went to Lamar, Leadville, Lafayette, and to inner city Denver, and we chatted with 56 moms in groups of 4, in their friendship groups, where they could feel open to talk with us about what their lives looked like, how busy they were, what the barriers to getting their kids outdoors more often looked like, and to also sort of start to test some messaging around what kinds of ideas and stories would help them in encouraging their children to get outdoors more often. And there were many key insights that we gleaned from that research process that helped formulate the strategy for this campaign. And some of those were that moms already felt like their lives were busy and that they knew that getting outdoors for children was important, but they had to think of it in the mix of a million other activities they were coordinating. And they didn't want to be preached to about it. They didn't want to add another should do this to their list. They really wanted simple tips and inspiration, reminders of those benefits so that they could get outside more easily and more readily with their children. And unanimously, across all of the groups of the moms we spoke to, they sought inspiration and emotional messaging more than that rational should do this type messaging. And we came to a campaign concept that really tapped into that needed inspiration. And we're calling it Generation Wild, and reminding through a tagline that kids grow better outside. So that's the campaign premise, and it was based on a concept that the moms liked called Everyday Epic, this notion that the outdoors really is accessible, it's as close as your backyard, just head out the back door with your kids and we'll provide the tips and inspiration for you to do that more often. We wanted the campaign to feel really creative and fresh and imaginative every time that a mom or a dad or another adult influencer in the life of a child saw it. And we wanted it to appeal to children too. There's a secondary target audience here of the children themselves and of partner organizations. And so we created this brand identity that has a suite of logos that will keep the campaign fresh every time it's seen. And at the core of the campaign is a content idea called 100 Things to Do Before You're 12. So the idea is that we've created a sort of bucket list, a list that we'll publish, that will be available for parents, with ideas of simple things to do for everyday inspiration. And those things include ideas like sleeping under the stars, seeing what's hiding under a rock, eat an apple straight from a tree, and hear your own echo. And the list itself takes people from the backyard and then pushes them farther out. One of our tips is visit a state park. Another is, or explore a state park. It's even friendlier language. Another is, which is at the end of the sort of spectrum from the backyard to the backcountry, hike a 14er. Every Colorado kid before they're 12 could hike a 14er. And so we wanted to create these ideas that started very simple, but created that exciting inspiration. And then we're taking those ideas and mixing them through a variety of media and tactics in a statewide integrated multimedia campaign. So one of the ideas is make mud pies. And so we'll create TV spots and digital videos that end with that idea. It's as simple as making a mud pie. Or we'll have a video where you can see rain falling in the background and adult characters are disappointed that it's raining outside. But then we cut to a small child who pops up in the window and is elated and runs outside to enjoy the tip, splash in a puddle. Another of the 100 things to do before you're 12. Roll down a hill will appear in banner ads. Go bird watching. And you can see some of the executions here across mobile tactics as well. And all of our digital presence, so whether it's a banner ad online or a social media post, will point back to a Generation Wild website where they can download the list and interact and get involved and engage. We'll also feature events from partner organizations, so we've been working very closely with CPW and 30-some organizations to make sure that we can content share and mutually highlight all of the activities that are going on in Colorado that families and children can access. There will also be billboards and out-of-home advertising in the Denver and Colorado Springs designated market areas. So it's a statewide campaign, but the billboards will be in the urban areas on the Front Range. We'll also have bus shelter build-outs that are 3D and also tap into some of those tips that I mentioned. Fly a kite, find a four-leaf clover in a bus shelter. There actually is a four-leaf clover that you can try to find. Bury a time capsule, find the Big Dipper. So this gives you a sense of the creative of the campaign. And here we're working on an actual fort that we can move from site to site throughout the summer and hopefully to a state park. Although we're still working out exact sites and permitting and logistics of that, but we'll build a large fort that children can play in and will be Generation Wild branded, that moms can take pictures of their children in and create buzz and excitement over. We'll have t-shirts and stickers, tattoos, and a variety of swag and collateral items to help create some excitement and buzz around the movement. In this first year, it's really about creating broad awareness, creating a splash for the campaign, and getting as much visibility for it as we can with frequency. So we hope to hit our target audience of moms throughout the state with multiple impressions of this campaign. There'll also be some other guerrilla tactics like the fort, which include spray chalk art. So on one day, we'll ask partners across the state at a variety of different types of organizations to go out and spray their sidewalks with chalk art and create some visibility for the campaign so that people go and look for it and find our list of things to do and feel inspired to get outdoors. So really our media plan itself has 4 primary channels: paid advertising, which will create that broad awareness and spark interest quickly. So as I mentioned, that'll be in TV, out-of-home, digital display, and online video advertising. We'll also leverage earned media channels to make the campaign work. And that really means we'll capitalize on the buzz that we can create from a public relations perspective to amplify the message even more. We'll use owned channels like GoCo's website and social media channels and the owned channels of our partners to spread the message. And really on the shared side, we're relying heavily on quite a few partners to help us create access into different parts of the state and to different target audiences. In the first year, we'll be printing 150,000 copies of the list, at least to start. That's the plan. And we'll be distributing those lists. And we're still working out exactly what it looks like through CPW, but we hope to work with regional managers to identify some state parks where we can hand out the lists. And we'll also be handing out those lists at libraries statewide, at all 264 libraries in the state. And CPW's backpack program was a major source of inspiration for that idea and has really helped us move the idea along. We'll also be handing out the lists of 100 things to do in all of the Boys and Girls Club sites across the state and through the Denver Parks and Recreation Centers. So that's to start, and hopefully we'll have some supplies that last longer than that we can distribute through other channels. As you can see here, this gives you a sense of the timeline for the campaign. This summer season is really our focus, and we'll be looking at different media flights for TV and our out-of-home presence across the summer, as well as that video and display advertising and paid social. And then we'll leverage some of our own channels like organic social media, events that we can participate in, our website, to sustain the program through the winter months before we launch again next spring. And right now, the GoCo board has approved the program for the first 2 years. There's also a heavy evaluation component. So there's a measurement and evaluation strategy, which includes a longitudinal mixed method study. And we're recruiting right now to have 1,000 moms participate, and we hope to get 350 moms through so that we can assess how we've been successful or not in changing attitudes, behaviors, and what the traction of the actual campaign messaging has been. And of course, our partner program will be something that can also persist during those months when paid media goes dark. So it's really exciting for us to be embarking on something like this and to be working with so many partners to create a movement in our state, to create this outdoors affinity. And happy to answer any questions that you have or update you in the future on how it's working.
Commissioner Peisel, thank you, Rosemary.
Thank you.
And we would like to have an update 6 or 9 or 12 months from now.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Rosemary. I love these presentations. I don't know if it excites these other old guys as much as it does me to get children outside. So this is always exciting to me because I think it's so critical, and I think we all recognize it. And you had one little slide, but I'm wondering how do we, GOCO and CPW, that slide was quick, but how are we going to track our progress to find out if what we're doing is actually working and if it's actually reaching the kids that need to be reached? And then how do we convey any successes we have to the population so that they get on board and stay on board and support this?
Yes. So I think that you've hit on a really crucial part of the program, and it's something that's been a focus of ours and that our board has been very interested in learning more about as we've gone. The measurement and evaluation of the program won't be easy. It's not easy to track how often a mom takes their child into the backyard. And so we're going to use the best approach we can, a quantitative and qualitative measurement approach. So we'll have on the quantitative side that study where we recruit the 1,000 moms and bring as many as we can through 2 additional touch points, which is exactly what makes it a longitudinal study. So we'll do the first touch point this fall and another touch point next fall to see. Right now, we're basically creating our baseline to understand what current attitudes and perceptions and behaviors, how frequently those families are getting outdoors are. We'll revisit those groups this coming fall and then the following fall to see if this campaign has had any effect on that group. On the qualitative side, we have worked into our strategy some budget for focus group style solicitation of information, so that'll add to that more anecdotal narrative on the success of it. And it's something that we plan, and that's on the overarching goals of the campaign. We'll also be tracking throughout the entire campaign those tighter metrics that are associated with impressions and frequency of impressions and how many people saw our message how many times, things like that. Like we'll track all of the digital media very tightly to know exactly whether we're hitting some key performance indicator benchmarks that we like to hit. So it's something that we'll not only be tracking from a campaign perspective and a behavioral perspective, but it's something, like you mentioned, that we'll have to consistently report out on. It'll be a focus of ours at the staff level, at our communications committee level, at the board level, and something that we track very closely. And because this is relatively innovative in its type of campaign, we'll want to share those results and our learnings very broadly. We'll want to share them with public audiences, and we'll want to share them beyond the board meetings. We'll want to share them at conferences related to this industry, if you can call it that. We already have Children in Nature Network on our radar for next year as a possible forum for sharing that kind of learning. So it's something we'll prioritize because we've looked at the landscape to see what kinds of programs like this exist and how they've performed, and there's not one that's apples to apples. So yeah, it's exciting. It is exciting. And of course, there's a very close connection here with the Inspire initiative. And there's a very strong measurement and evaluation strategy associated with that program as well. And we're looking, as we devise the measurement strategy for both this program, this communications program, and that programmatic on-the-ground work, we're looking to see how we can connect the measurement that we're doing and draw out some insights or learnings as a result of the two. So it's certainly a focus and something that I hope we can really fulfill on our end.
Maybe you'll learn as you go along how you track it and how you...
Yes, certainly any measurement that we glean early on will inform the strategy that hopefully helps us successfully launch a year 2.
I also think a billboard in the San Luis Valley would be a really good idea.
Yeah, I know. That was the one, the out-of-home tactics were the one where we're a little geographically limited just by budget. But we do hope that we can create, we will create a statewide presence through digital display and through social media and through partner organizations. So some of our outreach efforts are more focused on areas where we don't get things like billboards.
Thank you very much.
Other commissioner comments? Mr. Howard.
I'll just give a little background. the staff's done a great job on this. There's been a lot of oversight from the board and the subcommittee of the board that, and a lot of talk about marketing, which was great. One of my concerns initially was, are we just marketing GoCo, which I think is kind of a mistake. And what's great about the campaign is it's not that there is a great component for GoCo, particularly in raising our profile in urban areas, but it's coming from getting a message across about kids in the outside. And so that's the best marketing campaigns, where you're actually delivering a real message, not just trying to toot your own horn. But it does have the effect of raising GoCo's profile in these urban areas. And we've already seen, I think, in the Inspire program, the concept of getting to moms, because when you see the presentation from the Leadville project in Inspire and see all the involvement from moms in the Hispanic community in particular and all the creativity, you can really see why the campaign has a great chance of being successful. And we also, it's interesting, GoCo has a tremendous amount of expertise on the board in marketing, which we don't, at CPW, I don't really think the board has got that, at least at the level of some of the board members at GoCo. So it was a pretty active debate, like, should we spend this money? Is this really part of our mission? And I'm really pleased with the project that the staff has come up with. And the board continues to push quite a bit on what Commissioner Peisel's been talking about. There's a huge TV component. It's very expensive. So if you're trying to hit millennial moms, I wasn't convinced that that was necessarily the right media. It just really should be more social media. But the data was pretty clear that millennial moms still watch a lot of TV. And so, I mean, what I wanted to assure everyone is we're spending money, but it really is data-driven, and there's a lot of thought and oversight from the board and from a lot of expertise on the board. So, and I really want to commend staff for the program. So.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, John. I want to note the arrival of Commissioner Zimmerman. So other commissioner questions or comments? Rosemary, do you want to introduce? You have somebody else from your team here?
Yes, thank you. This is Laura Carden. She's an incredible communications coordinator that I have the pleasure of working with every day at GoCo. And she's been engaged in every part of this campaign, just as I have. And so it's been a year in the making. We kicked it off about a year ago, the research and strategy development process.
I want to offer one, I also want to introduce Tony Lewis, who's on the GoCo board. Is there any other GoCo board members here? Tony is from Longmont and is, I think, an educational consultant or educational reform expert. Am I roughly correct?
Correct. I work at a foundation focused on education reform.
So uniquely qualified to address this. I want to, my own editorial comment, in your list of 100 things to do, be mindful of the mission of CPW,
Yes.
both statutorily and culturally. I want to encourage, and I'm sure that John Howard and Chris Castilian carry this message, that to the extent possible, the messaging includes introducing children to hunting and angling and even the concept of trapping, the traditional wildlife endeavors. Very important piece of all that.
Yes.
So,
Are you for Boulder?
when I was coming out of the fog of general anesthesia, one of the things that I resolved to do was try to entertain Commissioner Peisel by constantly surprising him.
And it works.
And it works. So, any other question or comment for the communications program? I'm going to ask Chris to come back up and/or Emily to address two questions. Thank you, by the way, Rosemary. Thank you very much. Two questions involving GoCo that are sometimes pretty hot topics. And question number one is the annual legislative threat to the lottery and GoCo funding to attempt to divert it to other purposes. Question number two is the status of the audit of GoCo, which also involves, to some extent, CPW. So, Chris, Emily, whichever.
Sure. So to answer your first question, Mr. Chairman. I think we haven't seen any legislation this session dealing with reallocation of our funds, or I think trying to tinker with a lottery program or anything along those lines. As you all are keenly aware, lottery is up for reauthorization in 2024. We've been working with a coalition of partners, primarily some of our open space organizations, but also some of our local government friends, to begin an effort probably this next legislative session to seek reauthorization of the lottery programs. As you can appreciate, with all the budget fights that they've been having, not only on the general fund budget, but also with transportation funding, there are a lot of folks who might want to look at the funds that are available from lottery proceeds, which, you know, is up over $100 million, in an attempt to reallocate those things. But the good news, at least in our mind, is that those things are locked in the Constitution, and after Amendment 71 last year passed, would require a 55% vote of the public to alter any of those programs. But that being said, we're going to make a legitimate, earnest effort with our friends at the lottery to go back in and have this conversation probably in the 2018 legislative session, so we can be out well in front of our grant cycle. As many of you know, we're generally in a 3-year grant cycle, so we want to have enough time if for some reason, which we're not anticipating, that the reauthorization discussion goes sideways, that we at least have an opportunity to come back at some point in the next couple of years and remedy that. So long answer to your short question, we haven't seen anything this session, and that's kind of our plan going forward, is working with all of our partners to help them convey the message. Again, kind of to Commissioner Howard's point, we don't need to be marketing ourselves necessarily, but certainly talking about all the great things that we do with the partners out there on the ground, obviously CPW, but local government open space organizations primarily. The audit, you know, we're bound by confidentiality, can't really talk about a lot of that, but we've been working, I think, very well with the Office of the State Auditor. I think we are providing them with the information that they need to be able to come to some understanding of GOCO. This was the first performance audit that we've been through. Obviously, we go through an annual financial audit. And most of the issues that they've identified, we have been very, you know, I think clear in our response to them. We had our introduction, or our audit entrance meeting on Wednesday, what's today? On Tuesday. With CPW. And I think, like I said, I think we're both feeling fairly confident that we can address their concerns without much in the way of issues legislatively or otherwise. So happy to visit with you all separately about that, but that's kind of where we stand on the audit. We will be in front of the audit committee in late July, and be looking at whatever recommendations come out of that, probably at some point within the next 6 to 9 months at the board level with commissioners and whatnot. So,
any questions for Chris?
And, Mr. Chairman, can I just take one quick second? I want to emphasize, and it was, you know, Emily working with CPW with this Director's Innovation Fund is really remarkable. And it's one of these programs that, having sat on that side of the table for a long time, I think it's amazing, because what she's done with the relationships with the regional managers and the staff out there has solidified our partnership, I think, closer than ever with CPW. She mentioned the OWL program that we went up yesterday, and I'm saying this in the context with Generation Wild and the Inspire program. We are so totally focused as an organization, but totally ingrained with CPW on what we can do to build this next generation of kids to get out there. And when we were up at on top of the Grand Mesa yesterday with these 45 little kids that were not little, they were 12-year-olds, but they seem like little adults. When you talk to them, you're like, you're only 12 years old. But they were unbelievable. We had these 2 young ladies that were they kept saying this DIA, and I didn't understand what DIA was. It was a dual immersion, dual language program. And one of the little girls had never been outside, had never been in a park, had never done anything, and she's up there in her element, completely absorbed in this community of children up there with these teachers and CPW folks up there volunteering their time, teaching them how to shoot bows and start campfires and all these really amazing things that she would have never had the opportunity to do in her normal life, because her mom and her dad never take her outside, she said. And so here's this program that, as a result of this relationship that Emily's established with CPW, that's putting money into this program, and it's $20,000. But as you saw from Emily's ratings, it was at the top of the Directors Innovation Fund competitive process. And now through that, we've got this new generation of kids in Mesa County that are going to have this experience to be able to go back. Half of them got their hunter safety card up there, which is astounding to me. You know, I don't even have a hunter safety card, and these little 12-year-old kids, I know, I need it. They're out there, you know, carrying this message forward. So little things like that, big things like Generation Wild, big things like Inspire, you know, we're really, I think, optimistic about how we are hopefully going to impact this next generation of sportsmen and sportswomen that get out there and take advantage of the opportunities and hopefully become future customers of CPW and future stewards of our land out there. So it's really a cool thing, and having, you know, been in this job for a month, you can really see how all these programs are so fully integrated into one another and focused on all of these top priorities that we've identified.
Any other questions or comments? Anything? Mr.
I just
Bizel?
want to add one to Emily's list. You're in charge of...
The good list.
Of helping,
this is a good Emily's list.
You're in charge of helping Chris get his hunter safety card.
I made the mistake of saying to her father, and her mother's here, by the way, if any of you have not had the chance to meet Emily's mother. And
Well, round out the GOCO CPW
Yeah.
introductions, former wildlife
Yeah,
commissioner
exactly,
and
yes.
GOCO board member, Rebecca Frank, is also in attendance.
It's like the who's who of everybody here. She was supposed to bring a fishing, I don't say pole, a fishing rod, and teach me to do that. Yes, I know. But I made the mistake of saying pole in front of her father last night, and her mother reprimanded me appropriately. I will not ever do that again. So have we killed enough time for you, Mr.
Hey,
Chairman?
you've done a marvelous job. Any questions for Chris? I am even more intrigued now. I'm thinking about you hosting a dinner party in this Airstream. So the question I have is for Emily or Rebecca Frank. What are his culinary capabilities?
Emily did most of the cooking.
Oh, so it wasn't Chris that did the cooking.
It was quite good.
But
And he bought the dill pickle relish for the hot dogs. So
Wonderful.
There you go.
You know, that was important.
Very important. By the way, we should all recognize a significant pace setter in Colorado
Absolutely.
outdoors, and that's Rebecca Frank and her role in the Wildlife Commission and instituting GOCO, passing the amendment. She was part of that initial brain trust 25 years ago or thereabouts. Incredible contribution, which is now Emily, her daughter, is carrying on. So, well, thank you both. If any other, no more commissioner questions, thank you. I'm going to bring up Alan Martinez, but while he's coming up, it struck me, this is an appropriate segue. We are not only about growing healthy kids, but everything CPW does is about growing a healthy economy. So you have in front of you the latest national report from the Outdoor Industry Association about spending on outdoor recreation, and this report, by the way, includes hunting and angling and trapping activities as well. I encourage you, it's got very big aggregate data nationwide about economic impact, to look through this. I met with the Outdoor Industry Association yesterday in Boulder, or 2 days ago. They'll have state-specific data in July, late July, which I'll bring to you hopefully in August, and congressional district-specific data in October. So you'll be able to drill right down to your backyard about the economic development or economic activity generated by all forms of outdoor recreation. And I would remind you, if you haven't, as I suspect any good commissioner does, at least weekly consult your Colorado revised statutes and read them like you read your Bible. When the state parks system was set up and the statutes were written, it refers routinely to, in fact, the division was called the Division of Parks and Outdoor Recreation before the merger. we are responsible, this commission is responsible for not just, quote, state parks, but outdoor recreation and hunting and angling and trapping in all of its forms. So I'd make that little sales pitch. I want to introduce Alan Martinez, who, oh, John?
Commissioner, or Mr. Chairman, can I just give a quick GOCO report here?
Oh, sure, I'm sorry. I was going to call on you. Thank you for reminding me.
The highlight, I think, in addition to, at the Fort Morgan Board meeting, in addition to former Commissioner Castillion being on, was also Commissioner Zimmerman's first meeting. And so it was great to have a voice of recreation at GOCO from CPW, and glad to have her on board. I also wanted to just sort of comment generally about an issue that came up at the Parks and Wildlife Subcommittee meeting, and also, Mr. Chairman, to extend to you an invite to attend those meetings. Former Chairman of CPW, Burke, reminded us that that is not meant just to be a GOCO committee or subcommittee, that it's meant to be kind of a joint committee of CPW and GOCO. And so all the commissioners are invited to those Parks and Wildlife Subcommittee meetings. And that's where we get to see a lot of the staff work at a ground level. When it comes up at the board meeting, things are moving pretty quick. But if you're interested in sort of seeing the types of things that Emily's working on and the rest of staff and getting to know staff, that's a great meeting to come to. So we hope, Mr. Chairman, you'll be able to attend. A big topic in that subcommittee meeting, and I know we'll talk about it in more depth later in the agenda, but I just want to raise it, is on the RFP process in our hiatus here for a year. That creates all sorts of issues that I'm sure we'll talk about, but it creates for GOCO a rather unique issue, which is the quadrant spending. We've got to spend, I think the term is substantially equal on all four quadrants. And so if we're not spending money for good reasons or bad, it creates not just a statutory issue or an issue for us in the legislature and our relationships, but it creates a constitutional issue. And one of the things that it didn't really sink home to me until we were in the subcommittee meeting is, I just don't want to get into a position where every plaintiff's constitutional lawyer is thinking about a lawsuit because we're not spending enough money in that quadrant. Because I know we all agree that that's not where we want GOCO funding to go, is defending lawsuits. So that's something just to think about. I also just wanted to highlight board member Tony Lewis from GOCO. He is, I don't think, Mr. Chairman, you did credit to him in how conscientious he is. He has been a new board member, but he has come to just about every conceivable meeting. He's really a good friend to CPW, and I'm hoping he'll come tonight to the barbecue, and you'll have a chance to get a chance to talk to him. What the Donald K. Foundation, of which he's the executive director, does is really remarkable in some of the new models on education. And so he has a tremendous amount of input, I think, for GOCO and also for CPW on how to get kids involved. And so, Tony, welcome to being here, and I hope everybody gets a chance to talk to him. Really, the last thing I wanted to say is it's really exciting to have Chris Castillion on as the head of GOCO now. But I just also wanted to recognize Jim Spanstra. Part of my business is going in an interim setting, and there's nothing harder to do than to go into something that's got a challenge like the audit, and you're going in after a long-term director. And I just wanted to recognize that Jim Spanstra did a really good job, and he really reached out to CPW. He came on right as I was putting a lot of pressure, as you know, on the relationship between GOCO and CPW, and I think he did a great job in listening to that and starting to come to all of our meetings. I also would say that I thought he was going to cry when Crystal Dryland gave her presentation on the sportsman's. I forget, Pat, what the title is, but
Conservation Leaders for Farm.
Right, and then he followed through and went through it. If you haven't had a chance to read that blog post, I would love to see that on the front page of the Denver Post, because my demographic, which is sort of the guy in their 30s that's never been hunting, Jim did that in his 50s or however old Jim is, and he really embraced it. And that blog post is really powerful. And so I just wanted to thank Mr. Spanstra for all the efforts he made with CPW. And hopefully the commission can recognize that. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It's very well said, Commissioner Howard, and I absolutely concur. Having worked with Jim Spanstra when I represented this commission on GOCO for several years, he was a board member for 6.5, 7 years before he became executive director. He's long been involved in outdoor recreation, parks, wildlife issues in Colorado. And which begs the question, the social event was postponed to be rescheduled. Do you know, is there some subsequent planning?
I think that the former chairman, we're going to have a lunch for her, for Heather, and I think there is going to be a subsequent meeting.
Yeah,
And I don't know if Commissioner Zimmerman wants to add to my report, but.
not necessarily. Yeah, I mean, I've only had the one meeting and the one subcommittee meeting, so I'm getting up to speed. I'm doing a lot more listening than talking, which I know would surprise a lot of you. And it's been really good to see it from the inside, because of course, being just on the outside of getting the GOCO reports and the updates from our commission liaisons, it's been really nice to see it from the inside and understand the inner workings, or at least start to. So looking forward to being a bigger contributor.
Thank you both. Alan Martinez is the park manager of Highline State Park, and maybe you've got James
No,
Ross.
just Highline Lake.
We have a tour opportunity at Highline this afternoon. I want Alan to give a quick introduction to both the logistics and the attributes of Highline. And I would encourage all commissioners and senior staff and major stakeholders to take advantage of this wonderful opportunity. So, Alan?
All right, thank you, Chairman Pribble, for the opportunity. Highline Lake, we'll talk, is about a 20-minute drive from here out to the park. We'll go through a few of the different things out there, talk about some of the new construction that's happened out there. We have a pretty new visitor center, as well as new maintenance facilities. We also just completed a major redevelopment plan, looking at next 20 years. Some of the redevelopment that needs to take place out there. We can talk about that. I know you guys have heard plenty on dams and high-risk dams and the money going to dams, and Highline is in that category. We had a dam inspection yesterday. We can talk briefly about a couple of the thoughts on our dam. We also have a nesting pair of great horned owls out there, so you'll have an opportunity to take a look at that nest. Plenty of birds of prey out there right now as well. And then we'll go over to the west side of the park, talk about our fish barrier net. Was one of the first, Lori probably knows a little, I think it's one of the first in western United States. It's part of the recovery project to allow us to stock warmwater fish. We can talk about that. They now have a much larger net up at Elkhead Reservoir, and then we can talk a little bit about the ANS program out there, which is real critical to the agency, especially with Lake Powell and the infested boats that are coming out of there now. So we had 2 boats last year that we dealt with coming from Powell. So it's a huge threat and concern to western Colorado. So that's just kind of an overview. We'll be out of there by 5 o'clock, so we'll be back here and with plenty of time to get to the barbecue at 6 tonight. So
Thank you, Alan. I'm going to ask for a show of hands, just roughly, so Alan can, and staff can figure out how many vehicles. I obviously encourage carpool. We'll meet out front upon recess, roughly 3, or depending. So all those that are going to attend the tour, please raise your hand. Let's try to do a quick count. And again, senior staff, major stakeholders, you're invited to come too.
all right. And the one other thing that I don't know how it slipped my mind, since we have the 18-hour race this weekend, and they're out there setting up the course right now. So we'll have an opportunity to talk a little bit about that as well. It's the biggest event that we host, and it's taking place this weekend. So tomorrow we'll have 129 race teams rolling into the park and setting up. So it's a major event that we do over here. So they'll be there too.
And I point out that this is a heck of a revenue opportunity, both for the park as well as the surrounding economy.
Yes, It is, and it's turned out to be phenomenal. It's the best weekend that we have as far as revenues, and it's also brought visitors. Our campgrounds are full a month up to this with people at, preparing for the race, so.
That's excellent. We'll be delighted to see it. I assume Mr. Castilian is competing. Okay.
I think we got a solo spot. He can ride for 18 hours.
Excellent. Thank you, Alan. And
All right.
somebody, Adrian's got a rough head count for you. Well, thank you much. We'll see you this afternoon. So now Chris Drummond and the CTS briefing, trail systems.
Hi, I'm Eric Drummond. I've been a GIS analyst with the CPW GIS group since 2011. Been working on the Colorado Trail System project since October 2015. So, trails are the thread that connects all recreationists to the outdoors. Whether you are a hunter, a mountain biker, a backpacker, a family looking out to get out for a day hike, or an angler looking to get in the backcountry, everybody uses trails. And so this effort, the Colorado Trail System, will hopefully serve as a tool to connect a wide variety of outdoor recreationists to the opportunities that fit their needs. And by doing that, our agency is helping the entire user groups that our agency's mission aims to serve. So a quick overview of what I'd like to talk about today is just background on the project, and then we're launching this first iteration of this project on National Trails Day on June 3rd this year. And then I just want to briefly touch on kind of where the CTS is going in the near future. So we've heard a lot about the Colorado the Beautiful initiative, 3 components, the strategic plan that was adopted by this commission last May, the 16 and 16 projects, which is ongoing coordination of some of those missing trail gaps, and then the Colorado Trail System Mapping Project, which is what I'm presenting today. So those green spaces in Colorado, roughly 40% of Colorado is public lands, and we think of them as contiguous and of all these green places that we can recreate. But the reality is it's actually really segmented, and it's managed by a lot of different people. So if you wanted to recreate in this, we have a map here of just west of Colorado Springs, and you wanted to get information about going and recreating in this particular area, to get the definitive information of what you can and cannot do on any given trail segments, you'd have to go to a lot of different places right now. Here's the Garden of the Gods at the local level. County level, Catamount Ranch is an open space managed by Taylor County. We've got Mueller State Park at the state level, and then we also have an SWA just south of there, Dome Rock. And then the 3 major players in the federal level, the Forest Service, of course, a wilderness study area by the BLM a little bit south, and of course the National Park Service with fluorescent fossil beds. So the mission of the Colorado Trail System is it's really simple. It's every trail in one map. And by doing that, we're trying to put this authoritative information of what you can and cannot do on any given trail segment in one place for people to be able to get that information. So that's a quick look of how that looks when it all finally comes together. So by doing that, having this up-to-date map of trails, we're hoping that it's going to create opportunities for people to find new opportunities. I think a lot of us go to the same trails and repeat them, and hopefully this will find the right trail for whatever the recreational use is for people to find new experiences. And then, there's a lot of efficiencies in there and like planning these kind of outings because all this information will hopefully be in one place and one map. So the objective for the project that we're working on is to create this flexible platform that will enable all these different trail management stakeholders the ability to collaboratively build, maintain, and publish this geospatial repository of recreational trails across the state. So what I'm really saying with that objective is we're trying to do this in a sustainable way that it can be maintained. If we just took all their data, and this has been done a couple times in a couple of small areas, and one person mashes it all together, when the things change in the ground, it's a really difficult thing to keep and maintain this. So we want to, instead of doing a one-off project where we map all the trails once, we want to have this system that will make it possible to continually update and make this a sustainable thing, so the map and the data is up to date as we go forward. So I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but we'll just do quick stuff about the technical overview. First of all, what is it that we're trying to map? And this is our definition of a recreational trail: a common route legally traversed by the general public, which is primarily used for recreational purposes. Two sort of caveats on that. We're also doing bike facilities, commuting routes, so that's like a bike lane or a signed bike route in urban communities. Or if a county road is an important piece of connectivity for an overall route, we'll include that. So the Continental Divide Trail or the Colorado Trail are good examples that uses little sections of county road to make important connections. So we'll include those. So this is what we've been doing with a lot of these different entities. We kind of have a three-step process where we reach out to them first. We make sure that they are the people that make the decision of what you can and cannot do in any given trail segment. And if they fit that qualification, we go into a prepare cycle, and we get their data, we do a translation, and we do a review and a revise until it looks good. And then once they give us a green light, we'll publish their data into the public-facing application where people can see it. So when I started a year and a half ago, we didn't even have a complete list of all the different people that manage trails in the state. So the first thing we did was to compile a list and then go through of all the different types of cities and counties and recreation districts, and then go through on a one-by-one basis and reach out to someone at them or look at their websites and assess if they map trails. So over 450 different entities were kind of part of that list. And you can kind of see where we are with that broad spectrum of people today. So we're mapping three different things, four different things, pieces of data. And so one is the trail segments, the actual line on the ground. Trailheads is, of course, as a point on the ground, and it's how people connect to it. Trail routes, those are collections of segments that are good for a specific use. So this segment to this segment to this segment. The 18 hours of Highline is a good example of a trail route. They have lots of trails out there, and a lot of them connect together, and they make this really great racetrack. So the 18 hours of Highline is a great example of a route. And the last thing is a contributor, and these are the trail managers and the people who give us data. And we maintain one URL for each one of these entities. And by maintaining it all separately, when a URL changes, and they change all the time, their home site, their website changes, we change it in one place, and that cascades all the way across all of our data, which makes it a lot easier to maintain. I don't want to get into the details here, but these are the core attributes that we're trying to track to each one of the trail segments. And the things that are the minimum that you have to have for us to be able to publish your data is a trail name, surface, primary use, which is non-mechanized, non-motorized, or motorized, and then trail class, which is either a trail or a road. And then, of course, who is the manager, so we can provide that link back to people's website. So this is a really techie slide, but what I really like about it is that I think it illustrates where our time and our resources have been spent. The bottom two tiers, reaching out to all these contributors, getting their data, and then translating it into one single language, that is a tremendous amount of work, and where 85% of all of the time and resources we have spent has been applied. And it's really the foundation for everything that goes up from there. And when you look at the web application, the piece that actually lets you load up this URL and you'll be able to start interacting with it, that piece of it is so dependent on everything below it. And that's definitely a first iteration that we're going to improve over time. And the foundation is, and the time we've put all this effort is the bottom, is making the data good. So I just like to do a quick run through of what this application is going to look like. We're calling it the CTS Trail Finder. First thing that people encounter is our disclaimer, and yet they have to. The first time they load this website, they have to check this this disclaimer box. It says, "I agree. It's my responsibility to verify with the appropriate land manager that I am in compliance with all regulations that apply in public lands." Then they get a welcome screen, and really the takeaway here is we're trying to communicate what the symbology is. And so all non-mechanized trails are appear as green lines. Multi-use, non-motorized trails appear as orange lines, and then all motorized trails appear as red lines. And all of our bike routes are showing up as blue. So here's the initial view where you can see all of the state. You have a search on the right, all those buttons in the top left, toggle layers on and off. If you click on the state at the statewide level, you get this statistic that aggregates all of the data in the state. And so right now we have 36,000 miles of trail. I think when we actually launch, it'll be a little closer to 38,000. We have roughly 17,000 trails, 1,500 trailheads, and 221 different trail managers. And we have about 79 people that are giving us data. So Colorado Parks and Wildlife is a data contributor, and then we have 42 different state parks as a trail manager. So that's kind of the relationship there. So let's try to find some actual trails. So I typed in the address of this hotel and hit return. And I get this list of all the different things that are within 15 miles. So trailheads, there's 20 different trailheads within 20 miles in here. Then I have a list of hiking and biking and motorized. So hiking is those non-mechanized biking. And if you click into one of those, you get a list of all of those biking paths. And I clicked on a single one of them, and you'll be taken to you and you'll get the information about that given trail. One nice thing is while you're just interacting with the map, moving around, panning, you can mouse over any given trail segment. You'll get a quick update of what its name is, what that individual segment distance is going to be is something that we added, and who the manager is, and then what is the seasonal access. So let's say I clicked on the monument trail at Colorado National Monument. Here's the basic core Tier 1 attributes. And if I want to get more information, I can click on that link, the Colorado National Monument Trail Manager, and you get taken to their website. And when I did that, right on their homepage, there was this trailer that said, hey, the monument trail is closed right now. Mm-hmm. So we can't possibly track all the different closures and allowed uses, and our data is only as good as the data that the people have given us. And so by providing these links where people can go back to their website, we're really pointing them back to the definitive information so that they can make good decisions about that and use the trail sustainably. So one other way you can do is just search by trail name. I searched for one of my favorite trails in Colorado, Rattlesnake Arches. Gave me that list. This is in the Black Bridge Wilderness Study Area. It's right above Fruta. It's the second largest grouping of sandstone arches in the world, second to Canyonlands, or Arches National Park. Absolutely beautiful. Short trail, roughly 3 miles, non-motorized. Absolutely beautiful place to go. Another thing you'll be able to do is query by all these different things, so you can highlight all of the trails that say allow dogs. So when I run that query, here's all the different places where our attribute dogs is allowed is yes. So you can go by bikes, by pack amendments, by allow OHVs, and there'll be a lot of different breakdowns there. So that's kind of a quick rundown of what the CTS application will look like. Those were all screen scraps from our beta, and what I wanted to kind of describe now is what we learned from our beta and how we're trying to improve it. So one thing that we heard from the State Trails Committee was the ability to print these things, to move around, pan around, and create your own map that you can take with you outside. So hopefully in the near future, we'll be able to create GeoPDFs. You'll be able to pan around. Everything inside that box will show up as a GeoPDF. You'll be able to download that and take it with you to navigate the trails. The second thing is the detailed legend. What we heard from our users was a green line for non-mechanized, orange line. The simple lines wasn't providing enough information. Mountain bikers wanted to know, is this a cycling trail or a mountain bike trail? And riding motorized folks, it's not that useful just to have a red line. You need to know if it's can you take a car on it all the way down to a dirt bike? So the trade-off there is when you start adding all those attributes, the segments get shorter and shorter. But we have decided for June that we're going to break it down and add this a little more detailed symbology. The second thing is that I was using hike, bike, and riding trails. And what we heard, what especially about the biking trails, was that there's all kinds of people out there who aren't biking on them. And that we wanted to make it more inclusive and also include equestrians. So that's why you see the hike and hoof, and the change to the language of using multi-use routes. Last thing that we're going to do is these dynamic pop-ups, where all of the unknown values get grouped together into one thing at the bottom, and it says know before you go, and these are all the things that we don't know about this particular trail. Get more information, and that really kind of cleans it up and makes it easier for people to find out what they can find out from here, and then what they shouldn't assume from here, and then go get more information if they need to.
Very good, Eric. This is like the second, or perhaps even the third time I've seen a briefing on this because of attending State Trails Committee meetings, and this is a very sophisticated project, as you can all well appreciate. Any questions or comments for Eric on this trail mapping project? I'd remind you that this was initiated in measure by the governor's 16 and 16, I think was the or Colorado the Beautiful.
Colorado the Beautiful, yep.
Yep, Colorado the Beautiful 16 and 16 initiative on protecting and enhancing public lands and access to outdoor recreation and trails, and so on. And there's a significant and useful investment for a public or a customer base that depends almost solely on smartphones and or smart devices to do everything for them. So any questions? Mr. Vigil.
Has any of the partners contributed to the funding for the development of this system? Or are we carrying it all ourselves?
What they've contributed primarily is data and the resources of the GIS folks that it takes to create that. For example, I worked for 3 years as a seasonal before I started this for the State Trails program, and I worked with 42 different state parks to kind of map all of our trails. That effort to map 700 miles of trail, 729 miles of trail in state parks was, one seasonal for 3 years. So that's a substantial amount of resources, and that's what we're getting from all these people. And the value we're adding to it is translating it all into one language and putting it in one place. But to answer your question directly, no one has given us money directly for this project. It's only been in-kind data contributions.
Okay. All right, it's a good project. The system is great, but it's not cheap.
So I assume it's funded out of Parks cash in effect, right? Or
I can't speak to directly what budget it actually comes out of. What I can speak to is We've spent roughly $200 to $250,000 on it over the 18 months. And when we did this study in 2008, they estimated $15 to $20 a mile to map it. And when you do the math on what we have spent and the resources we've applied, we've done it for about $5 a mile. So we're
Good, excellent.
Well,
it might be a good question for our CFO, but thank you. Any further questions, Eric? Great job, thank you much. Now we'll take our break, 15, let's make it 15 minutes, come back at 10:35.
Thank you.
I appreciate the commissioners returning to their seats, and I'd love for us all to have 30 or 45-minute breaks like we used to under John Singletary, but then the commission meetings ran over an extra half day. So we're gonna try to get back on track here with Danielle and Chapter W3.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I am Danielle Eisenhart, Regulations Manager for Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and I have a fairly light regulatory agenda for you this month. The first agenda item I have is Agenda Item 10, which is Chapter W3 Small Game, which is purple in color on your devices, and it is a final action item up for your final consideration today. Walking through the changes just quickly, on page 1 you'll see the requirement for labeling live traps. Again, the proposed regulation will require all live traps limited to cage or box traps placed on public land to be labeled with the owner's CID in a place that's visible without manipulating the trap. If a CID is not available, then the live trap must be labeled with the trapper's name. All traps that are not labeled properly may be confiscated by a wildlife officer. Also on page 2, you'll see we've updated the season dates for 2017 and 18. And lastly, on page 4, we added the area west of I-25 in El Paso County into the extended quail season in the southeast. El Paso County is currently not included in the extended quail season, even though the southwestern portion that's on Fort Carson has good quail habitat. Those are all the proposed changes to Chapter W3, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any commissioner discussion? Public comment. Seeing no public comment, commissioner discussion. Is there a motion to adopt changes to Chapter W3 for bears and small game except migratory birds as proposed by staff?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Vigil, second from Pizell. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none opposed, motion passes. Danielle.
The next agenda item, number 11, is issue papers for Chapter P3, River Outfitters, which is an informational item, and this is blue in color on your devices. So we're opening up Chapter P3 today out of cycle at the request of our new boating safety program manager, Grant Brown. This will serve as our annual review for the chapter. So we have 2 issue papers today that both pertain to qualification standards and training documentation for trip leaders and guide instructors. And both of these issue papers have the support of the River Outfitter Licensing Advisory Committee. So the first one on pages 1 through 2 is proposing accepting aggregate miles for considering guide instructor or trip leader qualifications. So our current regulation, P302.5C, outlines our river mile requirements that we have for individuals to qualify as either a trip leader or a guide instructor. These requirements include supplying an itemized list or a log of each completed river trip, including the prescribed number of river miles, dates, beginning and ending locations, total number of miles for each trip, and whether the trip was private or commercial, as well as if the individual served as a trip leader. This regulation has led to some confusion within the river rafting industry on whether lumping trips over a range of dates is allowed. Most other states don't require an itemized river log, and as such, when many of these individuals come to Colorado to work, they try to recreate such a log, which can be difficult and sometimes unverifiable. To prevent individuals from having to recreate these river logs or to start from scratch, this issue paper proposes allowing lumped river trip logs as long as the following details are still captured. The river name and location, the river sections ran, and a date range of that calendar year, a number of miles per section, number of trips per section, whether those trips were private or commercial, which trips the individual served as a trip leader, and the date in which the individual met the trip leader mileage requirements. Individual logs would be required to be updated annually until the requirements to become a guide instructor had been met. We are not changing the number of river miles required for each classification. Staff feels that this proposed change would provide more industry flexibility without sacrificing public safety. In fact, we feel that this change promotes public safety by increasing the likelihood that qualification records for guide instructors and trip leaders are accurate. The second issue paper on pages 3 through 4 proposes accepting alternative proof of initial guide training when previous documentation is lost or destroyed. As stated in the previous issue paper, our P3 regulations outline the minimum training requirements in terms of river miles for trip leaders and guide instructors. Another problem that occasionally arises when trying to provide this training documentation is when the initial training documentation has been lost, destroyed, or is incomplete. When this happens, our river rangers often rely on prior qualification record inspections, which is sometimes based on their personal knowledge more than adequate documentation. No official document exists, such as a signed perjury statement form, and also this practice is not consistent with our current regulation. To bring those qualification records into compliance and not require an experienced employee to start over, this issue paper proposes accepting a signed perjury statement on an official CPW form, along with a CPW staff verified river log to prove minimum training requirements have been met in lieu of the initial training documentation. Also, initial guide training must have occurred in the state of Colorado. Staff feels that this change increases public safety by enforcing that adequate documentation is required before any employee guides a river trip. Past personal knowledge will also not be accepted for proving training requirements have been met. Those are all the issue papers for Chapter P3, Mr. Chairman. Regulatory language for these two changes will be brought to you in June for your final consideration.
Commissioner, questions? So that was informational, so.
Correct.
Any public comment? Seeing none, thank you, Danielle. Very efficiently done. Regional manager updates. Somebody got their exquisite graphics loaded. Mr. Prenslow, you got that brownie, you had that brownie flash out. Take some black and whites and show us.
Chairman. Commissioners. I think the director's in Denver. Interestingly, I do have a PowerPoint for you. You'll see it tomorrow, and Margaret will give on my behalf, as I'll be flying to Oklahoma for my daughter's graduation from college. So,
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
if you don't like it, complain to me after. So, I worked hard on that, but I don't get to give it to you. So, thank you very much. So I'm going to have some really good news, and I'm going to have some really bad news, and weather news, et cetera, from the southeast region. But I'm going to start off with some, I think, interesting news and really good news. But and I've updated you a couple times, but we'll just start at Mueller State Park. And I thought this was the reason I'm starting with this, apropos, as we're down testifying on the sustainability bill. One of the things we've worked on in that is the commission's ability not only to raise fees, but reduce fees. And so, as you well probably remember, when John Gerdes and I started talking about that, the Mueller cabins were 30% rented in off-peak, so from November to April. And so we started partly a marketing campaign, but mostly a price reduction campaign. And so I'll just give you a quick statistic. From November to April in fiscal year 14, they were 30% rented. As of today, we're 76% rented just in that time frame, just from reduction of prices and letting people know what we offer. So that's we'd like to say it's 100%, but there's always a few days during the middle of the week we can't get that. Really, that's about the ability of marketing and reducing our prices. So I think it'll be interesting as we move forward, if we move forward sustainability bill on how we can up and down at time. And it's one of the conversations I've had and got a lot of support, especially from the Republican side of the aisle, that it's not just up, that you can actually reduce prices and change pricing and marketing to incentivize sales. So I thought I would start with that. Area 12 down Lamar, we're working on a water right we have on Muddy Creek that goes into John Martin Reservoir. We're putting up a weir. We had a measuring weir, but it just gets flooded. Muddy Creek, hence the name. When it rains, it turns into serious mud and a flash flood, and it would inundate the weir. So we're building a huge kind of a bridge / weir so we can capture that measurement, because if we can't measure the water, we can't keep it in our account. So we're happy about that. You're also going to hear significantly more about water in John Martin in June. We're probably going to give a award in June, so I won't get too far ahead of that. But Brett Ackerman, who Deputy Regional Manager in the Southeast, has been working diligently with Tim's staff and our water staff out of Denver and regional staff, and just a week ago have signed and got Kansas to agree on a substitute water supply plan for augmentation water for the permanent pool in John Martin. And this has been an issue in John Martin since John Martin was built. We have a water right for that we've never been able to use at John Martin. This is a really, really big deal, and I'm really proud of Brett and his team on getting that. It's a 1-year deal now, but we believe will, through negotiation with Kansas and Colorado and the compact, we think this will turn into a quasi-permanent issue, and what it really does for parks and wildlife is guarantee that there's enough water in the permanent pool that you'll never get down below 10,000 acre feet in John Martin Reservoir. And that means you have a fishery always, but you don't have to drain it down to zero. And that saves millions and millions of dollars of rebuilding and time of that fishery. And you also have a reservoir where, from the parks perspective, you have a wet boat ramp and a place for people to recreate. So that's a really big deal. You'll hear more about it in June. Just wanted to highlight that. Let's see, we've got wildlife technician Kevin Kazmarek, and also in Lamar's planning about 150 acres of high-quality upland bird habitat, and we're actually hitting the weather. I don't know if you know or not, that little storm we had last week, I'll talk about this a couple times. Most areas got a couple inches of snow and some tree damage. We had 30-plus inches of snow in southeast Colorado in a full-out blizzard, just an absolute whiteout. I've had staff that had their vehicles ruined because their sheds broke. I still have staff that don't have electricity down there. So it was 2 inches in Colorado Springs and 30 inches down there. Area 13, as you know, we're in the middle of a bunch of say court and controversy over lion and bear stuff, but in the Arkansas, we have captured 11 or 12 lions and placed collars, electronic collars on there. And so we're busy learning about lions. So when you hear the dastardly deed that all we're doing is killing lions, actually completely incorrect. Haven't killed any extra lions, but we do have 11 with collars on. We've also captured and collared 100-plus deer, part of that study, and so we're ongoing and very much in tune in that study. So, I'll tell you, Area 14, which is in Colorado Springs, I would just tell you we're very, very sad. Dave Nichols was our technician out at Bonnie, just lost his battle with cancer, and this last week, so we're dealing with that as far as the region. I also say, and not to get out ahead of Tim, but we also know we lost Kevin Edwards last week. It's really a sad day for Parks and Wildlife for all the way around. So I'll continue on. Salida, we are continually working on, and I think I've updated that, but we're working on, we have a low head dam on the river, and we're continue trying to mitigate and work through that to eventually either mitigate or remove that low head dam and continue to work on the water right for the hatchery to improve the water for the hatchery and get rid of that low head dam, which is a safety and killer, quite frankly. So we're optimistic that we can solve both of those on a positive side for the water and obviously for the safety aspect. And we have all kinds of staff, and I'll give a kudos out. So we have engineering staff working out, again, Tim's legal staff, our water staff, regional staff, aquatic staff, and hatcheries all putting our heads together on that on that issue. Seemed like it ought to be an easy issue, and it never is, not when you deal with water. We've had a few storms in the southeast. Cheyenne Mountain State Park is back up to running after the 103-mile-an-hour windstorms, and so they're at full capacity again. That's good news. Mitch Martin's done a great job just getting up to speed back on that storm. John Martin have some issues. I have a staff of 4. Now I have a staff of 2. I have a park manager and a resource technician, and that's it. The park ranger took a transfer. The administrative person is on some medical issues. I'm working to try and to kind of fill the gap as you go through the summer. It's kind of hard to run a park with 2 people, and so we'll continue to work on that. Lake Pueblo State Park, we've finished. We're thrilled about that. A $1.3 million electrical upgrade. And so it's great news because you now have 50 amp service in the campground, although if you remember our windstorm, you have no shade shelters because all 60 shade shelters blew away in their windstorm. That was, let's see, $360,000 worth of damage just on one windstorm. So we're working diligently to solve that. Sadly, I would tell you, though, again, the little storm that we had last week that created the 30 inches of snow, we actually have more damage due to that snow impact than we had on the wind damage where we lost the boat docks. And so we have downed trees everywhere in Pueblo. So, you know, there's good news and bad news in there. We're working through all that tree damage as we speak. Some good news at Pueblo, we've signed an MOU with the Bureau of Reclamation on the Southern Colorado Trail Builders to keep and it's too bad Director Castillion's not here. I know Michelle will appreciate this. I know we took a tour there to keep the trails, the mountain bike trails. They're unofficial trails. We're working on to make them official trails. I will say this on the record. We had a little coup-d'etat with the Bureau of Reclamation. They chose about a year ago, they said, these are unofficial trails, we're just going to we're going to make you shut those trails down while we do planning to open them permanently. And I said, well, and it was a little more complicated than that, but I said, if you would like to try that, I would like your phone number, and I'll put that in the press release, and they can call you directly when you try and close those trails down while you're planning to keep them open. And they decided that was not a good idea. So we decided we'd sign an MOU, and the trails are currently open, and we'll continue to endeavor to keep them open permanently and positively.
I have a question.
Yeah.
That's good that they're
Yes.
open to bikes. I'm wondering if maybe you and Commissioner Bray might want to put together like a CPW cycling kit, spandex cycling kit, and give us a tour on bikes.
Everything but the spandex. Yeah.
I'll let Dan wear spandex, I'll ride the bike.
Yeah.
How's that? Fair enough.
My bike might have 125cc underneath, and I will win, but I won't be wearing spandex. But it's a good question, thank you. Mueller State Park, I think I talked to you, we opened up a section of the park specifically for horse use, so you can come and rent sites and corrals, and it's just a wonderful barn from the old Mueller Ranch. And so we went to the Horse Expo in Denver and just had hundreds and hundreds of people lined up to talk about that. So we're interested to see how that kind of marketing turns out. We continue to talk about maybe advertising in Oklahoma and Texas. Nothing like horse people that are trying to get out of 115 to 20 degrees weather and come up and spend a week, you know, in really nice horse country for the summer. So we think that'll be a big boon for the park. Just finished, I'm winding up, just finished collecting about 32 million walleye eggs at Pueblo. That's always a really big deal for the month of March. So the aquatic staff, they got a lot of volunteers to do that. We had a great write-up in the Pueblo Chieftain. It's one of the times we actually got some positive press from the Pueblo Chieftain, and we're going to continue to improve on that. But it was a nice spread about all the work we do down at Lake Pueblo State Park. We've just moved 19 females and 29 male lesser prairie chickens, potential threatened or endangered lesser prairie chickens from Kansas into Colorado. Now, they might have dispersed because there's a blizzard, and so we're now actively searching what happened to our 35, new fresh birds, but I'll let you know how that goes. And last but not least, we've just finished capturing and collaring 30 adult cow elk down along the ranches in southeastern Colorado, the Tertio Ranch, the Hill Ranch, Vermejo Ranch, several other ranches. Local staff worked and our terrestrial staff worked diligently to do that, and that is the intent. We have about 20 to 25 calves per 100 in the southern tier, calves per cows. In the southern tier of Colorado, it's true also in the southwest in Roberts Country, and yet on the northern part of Colorado, we have 50, 60 calves per 100. So there is an issue, and we're trying to find out what that issue is, and so that's how we'll do that. We actually put a transplant, so when that cow calves, the minute that calf hits the ground, it sets off a signal, and we send some, young, bright-eyed college student out there to chase that calf down. Pretty easy to catch them when they're that young, and then you put a collar on them, and then you follow that calf for the first 6 months of its life. So we're interested to see that, and we think that will give us some great information. So with that, I will wrap up. A lot of things to talk about.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Bray.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bray, my apologies.
No problem, thank you. Good report, Dan, even absent of the pictures. But my question is on all your weather-related damages, does insurance proceeds help? Do you get insurance on your $360,000 worth of wind shelters, and that sort of thing?
Commissioner Bray, great question. Yes, for the most part. So we are actively putting in, or have put in, risk management. We're self-insured to some degree, but we are putting in for that. And there's good likelihood that we can do, but it's worse than, I would say, just normal insurance, even longer. So what it doesn't do is help you in the short run. So we may get a legitimate claim on that and get paid back. But what we do in the short run is I have an emergency fund through capital, and so we'll do that. We'll do it on our own and then hope we get reimbursed. So we're going to fix it either way. I'm not sure we'll get it on all the tree damage. So we're working through that. But generally, yes, we will apply through risk management for that funds, but it's never timely. Great question.
Other questions? Mr. Howard?
Dan, did the storm, it's kind of a critical time, I think, for quail, so.
Yes.
And you had a banner year last year on quail down there, so.
If they survive, that's a great question. If they survive, and I've not heard specifically, I asked the question in the middle of the storm, and there were two questions. It rained right before that storm, as whether that we would have significant runoff and fill like Two Buttes Reservoir and, Muddy Creek, because it literally was a ripper. And I've not heard we had staff couldn't get out of their driveway for 3 days, so it was second on my list to go out and send them out on quail counts or whether the creeks were running. But if they survive the blizzard, we're going to have off the top banner year in southeast Colorado for quail, if they survive that. Now, in Lamar, we had 2 inches of snow, and it rained. So 3 inches of snow, but there was 1.5 inches of moisture. 1.5 inches on 3 inches of snow. It was basically rain. So we will have a green, wet spring if they survive the initial blast. And it melted off in 2 days. That's good news. But it collapsed buildings. It was a ripper. I will check.
Any other questions for Dan? I just want to thank you and compliment you. My sources in and around the legislature say you've been very visible and helpful on the fee bill and the license bill. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Good morning.
Next is Pat Dorsey from the wonderful
wonderful Southwest region. That's exactly right. Good morning, Commissioners. How are you? All right, let's see if I remember this. Adrian, what do we do here?
Oh, no, I'll get it turned on here.
Like Dan, my report is going to have some good news, some bad news, and kind of give you a glimpse of what's on the horizon. And first off, I'd like to point out the young lady there going into the live well is a ranger at Ridgway State Park named Chelsea McCoach, and I will talk about her a little later on in my presentation as well. So ANS has been a big deal in the Southwest region since the word got out that we weren't going to have money for funding. So one of the first places that happened when we proposed cuts to ANS funding was at McPhee Reservoir. We already had a good partner in the Dolores Water Conservation District, but we had two other partners, the Bureau of Reclamation and the Forest Service, step up to fund ANS at McPhee Reservoir. And so that's been very successful and very helpful for our efforts this spring. In addition to that, we didn't have money to fund any ANS inspections at Carbondale or at Paonia Reservoir. So we were looking at having non-motorized, hand-launched craft only at Paonia Reservoir. When the residents of Carbondale heard about it, they said, can we raise the money so you can do ANS and we can get our boats on the lake? And within 2 days, we had enough money to fund ANS at Paonia Reservoir. Even though that's fairly short boating season, we're going to have a boating season there. Then in southwestern Colorado, particularly in the Four Corners area, we've had a couple of reservoirs where we never had ANS inspections. We allowed motorized boating because the risk was very low. But there has been more concern. And so we have several reservoirs now that have restrictions on them, so the boat ramps have been gated, and they are still open to boating. And the sign's a little bit misleading. It's open to boating, but has to be hand-launched, non-motorized craft only. And so our staff is working really hard down there, Scott Elder at the state park and Matt Thorpe, the area wildlife manager, to make sure we're doing the right thing about education. We're doing the right kinds of enforcement, and we're coming out with some restrictions that minimize the risk to these reservoirs and allow access to the public for boating. And so from Cortez, Lake Powell is actually a 2-hour drive. They can be at Lake Powell faster than they can be at Ridgway Reservoir or Navajo Reservoir and stay in Colorado. So it's a huge threat to us. But as Reed DeWalt and the ANS staff pointed out, Lake Powell is a huge concern all over Colorado. 430 boats that had been to Lake Powell have been intercepted at Chatfield Reservoir alone. So these boats are coming into Colorado and going everywhere. But for us, it was a big, huge deal. So I reached out to the National Park Service. They've got their website up for the Glen Canyon Recreation Area, and we now have a live link to Colorado's regulations, so boaters know when they go to Lake Powell what they have to do when they come back into Colorado. We're working through some issues. They're also going to be passing out Colorado information at the boat ramp. When a boater comes off of Lake Powell, he's going to get a handout that tells him what to do when they go back into Colorado to not bring those species. So even though Lake Powell is a big concern in southwest Colorado, this map shows you early on the efforts were all to keep mussels east of the 100th meridian. And you can see from this map, they've been fairly successful in doing that. Most of the boats come from other parts of the United States. So this boat was picked up at Ridgway Reservoir. It came off of Lake Texhoma. And as you can see here, those mussels are pretty sneaky. There's one hiding up there. And then a lot of these little squiggly things that you see attached to that boat are actually the bisal threads, which you'll see before the mussels get established. You'll see these little threads where they're actually trying to move on to those boats and grow into mussels. And so after we got that boat at Ridgway, and Chelsea McCoach, by the way, is the one that, so the gal I pointed out at the beginning of this is in charge of the ANS inspection at Ridgway. And this cartoon was in the Ouray Plains dealer telling, I think it was really a compliment to staff that we're pretty good at catching these guys and getting them decontaminated so we don't get an infestation in Colorado waters. With that, we had a houseboat coming off of Lake Powell, and the trailer was broken down on Highway 160 between Durango and Cortez. near Mancus. It was headed to Navajo State Park. And when we look closer at that one, it also was infested with mussels. This photo up here is one of the intakes, and you can see that has considerably more mussels than the one coming off of Lake Texhoma, actually. So we got that one off the highway, got it moved safely to Navajo State Park. It'll be quarantined for 30 to 60 days, and we'll get that one decontaminated as well. And then I get to move into the funner stuff that I like to talk about. So I'm going to talk about some education stuff. We did our first Outdoor Education 101 in Delta, and this is with GOCO and the GOCO Inspire project. This is with the Delta Nature Connection. We had 26 participants. Senior Ranger Scott Rice from Crawford State Park helped, along with Catherine Bronze, who's our education coordinator. And we had other CPW participants, Chelsea McCoach and Chris Parmeter, who's a DWM in Gunnison. And in addition to that, we had 4 CPW volunteers getting trained in how to get people outdoors, how to get them engaged. We had an turkey seminar in Area 15, followed by a limited guided turkey hunt for novices. We had 15 people attend the hunting seminar and 6 people go out on a hunt. We had 2 people harvest their first turkey, and they got to go on private land around Pagosa Springs. It was just incredible. So that everybody actually had birds working and coming in and got excited, and their heart rate went up and all of that kind of stuff. So they all had a great time.
What species was that on the turkey?
Miriam's. And then this hunt was up by Gateway. And this one we took a parent and a youth on a turkey hunt. One of the youth was actually a partner's kid, and so his partner went along, and in that red circle there, you can see the kid hiding by the tree, so he got the full-blown experience as well. And in that particular case, I like to say, you know, there were two hunters, and the turkeys escaped completely unharmed in that instance. So. And when I talk about these exposure to hunting, and you heard the GOCO, you know, getting kids outdoors and Generation Wild and all that kind of stuff, and I think about how important it is. And about 2 days ago, I got an email from somebody. When I was, I hate to tell you this, 1998, I was the youth hunting coordinator for Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and I was working on getting kids outside. And one of the people that I worked with was a single mom who had twin boys. And she sent an email saying that her email address had changed, and I sent her a thing back saying, "How are the boys?" And so this is an email I got from one of her sons, who is now a third-year medical student. He said, "Thanks again for all the work with my mom back in the day, helping with wildlife and hunting experiences. While I do not hunt anymore, it has played a part in my love of wildlife and animals. Also, 2.5 years in search and rescue, and then on to be a paramedic, and now to medical school." So I think it's pretty incredible. Sometimes we don't even know what kind of an impact we have by getting these kids outdoors. With that, I'd like to talk about the new pedestrian bridge we've placed at Crawford State Park. The old one was a creaky wooden bridge that was unsafe. We replaced it with this great one. We've got several trail segments at Crawford State Park that'll eventually take us all the way around the lake. So this is just one of the phases to get all of those connected. I spoke to you earlier about some resource damage that was occurring at Navajo State Park. As you can see, creating barriers at Navajo, which is relatively flat, is an effort unto its own. So we've been placing some boulders with the Bureau of Reclamation. And then the last thing I'd like, I forgot this one. So these are mule deer actually using one of the underpasses on Highway 160. CDOT has a number of photos of animals using those underpasses. Right now, they're all mule deer, but we're hoping that elk and other animals start to use them, but it's a great sign that they're actually kind of getting trained up. This is a bad stretch of highway. And I drive it every day, so I'm glad that they're starting to learn how to use it as well. So this is my last slide. There's a controversial trails proposal out at Gunnison. Gunnison Trails is actively involved, and actually, I think, has submitted the proposal within the Signal Peak planning area. Our staff is putting together an interdisciplinary team, including our trail coordinator, our biologist, and our local wildlife staff up there to comment on these trails. It has high recreational value. It's close to Gunnison. It's critical habitat for mule deer, and after the winter we've just had, it's critical winter habitat. And it has 3 Gunnison sage-grouse leks as well. So I'm anticipating that you guys may be hearing more about that from both sides. Both sides are very vocal and very opinionated on the topic. So we're going to try to strive for a win-win-win-win-win on this one. It's rainbows and unicorns for me, maybe. So with that, are there any questions?
Mr. Pizell.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dorsey. Wonderful as always. I love your pictures. This is kind of a general question, and maybe you can answer it with just a nod of the head. Yeah, we're so smart and we have it handled. But ANS, we seem to be ahead of the curve with ANS and keeping it at bay. Should the worst happen with our fee bill, what would be the plan with ANS? And there's a lot of programs. It's not just ANS. There's a lot of what we would do could be in jeopardy, but are we going to be able to continue ANS? And if so, how? And maybe you don't have an answer, and maybe
You said to just nod my head,
Are
right?
you guys thinking about it, or what's the contingency? Or
You know, I'm not the ANX expert, and Doug Krieger is here, who may be able to answer some of that stuff. But what I would say is, I think it just points to how critical getting financial sustainability for the organization is, because we do a lot of really good stuff that touches people on a lot of different levels. I don't know, Doug, do you want to address the contingency plan?
Thank you for the question. Doug Krieger, Aquatic Section Manager. I guess we really had a kind of a look at that for this year. So, you know, with the loss of severance funds, we needed to go out and let all our partners know. We have over 100 partners in this program across the state, and so what we needed to do was let them know of our situation, how they could help. That's worked to a certain extent. We've got $1 million of the program this year from outside parties, you know, water districts, water municipalities, irrigation districts, so that's been real helpful, but it doesn't totally fulfill the gap. One portion that we really feel that we're not getting enough support from is the federal agencies. So there was a legislative resolution that was run this year and passed, and a letter will go from the General Assembly to the Corps of Engineers, Bureau of Reclamation, Forest Service, asking for, and BLM, asking for additional assistance. Don't know what that's going to gain us. Some federal agencies have shown more willingness to fund, but not nearly enough. They have such infrastructure at risk. If you think of Western United States, the Bureau of Reclamation of all the agencies have tremendous amount of, you know, facilities, recreation, pipelines that would be involved and under a big financial burden if we were ever to get zebra mussel, quagga mussels in state. So it was good to know that we're still have some potential for severance funding in the future. That'll be a part of it. Obviously, then we'll have to see what we can do with all the rest. But it's we're going to be in a tough situation if we don't get the bill through.
so it's going to pass. Otherwise, you're going to do magic, and we'll
Correct.
figure it out.
Yeah. We're not thinking the alternative right now. Right.
Pixie dust.
Rainbows and what is it?
Rainbows and
yeah,
unicorns.
unicorns. Yeah.
Pixie dust. Are there other questions for me?
Seeing none?
With that, we're looking forward to having you in Pagosa next month.
Thank you, thank you. Northeast Region.
All righty, good morning. I'm Tom Craning, Chairman, Commission. Appreciate the opportunity to come. I'm the Deputy Regional Manager for the Northeast Region, filling in for Mark Leslie, who is on vacation. So appreciate the opportunity to come and update you on some of the things that are going on in the Northeast Region. Before I get into mine, just following up on that, part of the reason I selected this slide was that everything is warming up. Everything is ahead of schedule in the Northeast Region. Parks are seeing lots of use, above average use. They don't have all of their seasonals hired, and so it's been kind of an interesting time from that standpoint, just because of the weather. While it's been a challenge for the Southeast, hitting them hard, it's been the other side where it's been nice for us, and we're addressing that from that side. So let me get into the rest of this and talk about some of our personnel changes. We have Rick Spowert, who has retired after 33 years with the agency. He was a district wildlife manager in Estes Park and was there for 32 years. He stalwart there, wealth of knowledge, and we're going to really miss him as he retires and has moved on. We also have Greg Iser, who's the property technician in Area 2 at Long Hagler, and he has resigned and is working with his family, and so we're going to miss him as well. So 2 in Area 2. Dave Myers has been hired as the PRT in Cherry Creek at Cherry Creek State Park, and he comes with a long history of work, property technician type work at Larimer County, City of Fort Collins, San Bernardino County Parks, and the Nature Conservancy. So he comes very well qualified, and we're really glad to have him. So welcome, David. We've had a few very good activities that are going on that I'm going to be able to highlight. Pat highlighted several of those, and this is the National Archery in the Schools program that has been taking off all over in the northeast part, and especially taken off at the Rock Ridge Elementary School in Castle Rock. And we actually got to go down in this slide on the left. Some of our staff were able to help with some awards for an archery tournament that they held down there. And then they also were able to video and get some comments from our the principal that has been heading up the Archery in the Schools program at Rock Ridge. So let me play this video if I could, and see if technology will work with us here.
We've been working on your different techniques, right? Okay, now remember what the different techniques are. What are they? What's the number one? After every shot, remember, reflect. I have a passion for archery. I believe it's an additional ditch that you can meet with kids that might not be interested in music or choir or sports necessarily. Good job.
I've been doing archery since I was 6 at my grandparents' house, so being able to do it at school sounded fun.
Well, Mr. Mosby's been teaching us a lot of techniques and different ways to do it, but it's really fun, and what we do is just really cool.
The muscles here, as well as the muscles in your back, and that's going to help steady your aim. We just started the club in September of 2016. The Division of Parks and Wildlife, they have a matching grant program, so we were able to defer some of the costs associated with starting this program with the grant that they then matched with us. And it's amazing the response. Right now, I only have 5th and 6th graders as a kickoff to kind of like feel the program out, and I have 25 rostered to be on the program or participate. We're meeting at 7:30 in the morning now, so that shows a dedication of the number of kids that really enjoy it. All right, let's see what we have. To see where they came from September, where 1 in 7 shots they might be hitting the target, to now I mean, I had a student today that we're doing 5 arrows, and he scored 24 out of 25 possible points. Unbelievable shooting. Perfect.
I was really bad at the first 3 years that I've done this, but after this year, just like gotten really good at shooting and hitting bullseyes. It doesn't matter how many arrows you shoot, it just matters that you hit the target.
Nice shot. Nice shot.
Oh, which one did you shoot?
What's really exciting about that is, first you notice that Mr. Mosby is the principal of the school and is putting his time into doing that, which is really encouraging those kids. And then the enthusiasm and the excitement that they have in participating. So it's been a very good program and very fun to watch. We have another event that I'd like to highlight in the Northeast region. It started from a devastating wildfire that Mr. Easton mentioned earlier out by Haxton, Colorado. That's very far northeast part of the state. The fire occurred on March 8th and consumed over 32,000 acres. It also consumed 4 homes and a number of outbuildings. Area 3 had the idea to come up with to help some of the ranchers after many of them lost a lot of their pasture land. And they got together and thought, we have some hay, let's see if we can make this work. So I also have a video for this. Sorry, I got behind here. Got a technical issue here.
Sorry.
And one more.
Sorry about that.
It was just amazing out here. The winds were up 40 to 60 mile an hour, and that fire just raced across the landscape and was just consuming things. You know, you couldn't get in front of it and try and stop it. And before you know it, it was pretty close to Haxton. Later on, they told us about 32,000 acres burned up. Of that, unfortunately, 4 or 5 homes. I think somewhere between 12 and 15 outbuildings. And out here, outbuildings means barns, people's equipment. So it really affected the community as far as, you know, we have farmers and ranchers out here. And so impacted their ability not just to do the work, but it burned up their work, burned up their fields, burned up their pastures. So it was a significant impact. We were just brainstorming ideas of what it is that we could offer to potentially help the community. And one of the things that came to mind was, you know, I know some of our wildlife areas produce hay, and we usually do it where a farmer or ranger in exchange of use. They'll make the hay for us and they'll leave us a certain percentage. And so I started asking around and found that we had some hay down in South Park, and they had somewhere between 60 and 75 bales that they were willing to give us. And so just took some coordination between our hatcheries folks and several different areas in the region. We were able to get it loaded and bring it out here. Didn't cost us anything to make, and certainly is a simple thing we can do to offer it up to those who are affected. You know, along the Front Range, we sometimes forget that there's a lot of ways to make a living in this state. And out here on the Eastern Plains, it's agriculture. And agriculture is what makes the communities thrive. And when a fire comes through, you know, we're fortunate that only a few structures went up, but it took away their livelihood and significantly impacted their ability to make a living. And for us to be able to contribute in some small way, I just feel thankful that the agency was willing to do that.
So it was very much appreciated by the community. I want to thank Todd Schmidt, Mark Lamb, and Dawson Swanson, who was filling in for Mark for part of that time, who initiated overseeing this. Ty Anderson and Jeff Meckelberg were the technicians that actually put it all together, and I want to thank them. And then also Paul Menshoff from the hatchery section. and he provided some of the semis that we needed in order to be able to transport the hay out. So it was a teamwork all the way across the board. It was just really, really neat to see all that come together. It was a big effort, but all put together fairly quickly, and like I say, was very much appreciated. Let's see if we can get this to move. Also out in Area 3 in northeast part of the state, we had our Northeast Shoot. This is hosted by Area 3 this year at a range out there. This event provides vital training for our firearms, for our officers in the Northeast region. It's a great team building opportunity, and had a good participation from our officers. We had nearly 70 officers that participated. And again, I want to thank Todd Schmidt and his area, Todd Kozad, Dave Piper, Area 3 for setting this up, and was very, very beneficial. This slide is a volunteer orientation. Melanie Cockness is the officer on the right. She's the DWM down in the southwest part of the metro area, and she works Waterton Canyon. Waterton Canyon's owned mostly by Denver Water, and also on the upper parts has some Forest Service and some other private lands. Very popular place where people go and see bighorn sheep, bears, all sorts of animals, and we've had lots of conflicts down there. So Melanie worked with Lori Morgan, the Northeast Volunteer Coordinator, and Mary McCormack, Northeast Education Coordinator, and put together a program where they brought these volunteers in that will be going out and working with them. Denver Water was very impressed with the professionalism, the interest. They're going to be good partners and being able to continue working with them through this. I think most all of you know about the application deadline day, and Northeast Region's one of the busy spots in the state for this. This year it was April 4th, and for the 2 weeks before that time, we have geared up and we had nearly 100 staff, both permanent and temporary, and then a lot of volunteers that come in and help hunters with their applications. And so I want to thank Jenny Campbell. She was the one that coordinated that, the front desk staff, and then especially those volunteers that were coming and helping with that. These are the numbers that we had from that 2-week time period, and you can see the trip room is where they actually go in and they talk with some of our staff about different units, different hunts, different opportunities, and so there's a lot of use there. In the midst of that, we have licensed sales that we're doing. This is not necessarily the same. It may be habitat stamps or things like that, but the TLS sales are going on, and we still have park transactions that are happening at the same time, and then lots and lots of phone calls. Almost all those numbers are up from 2016. This spring, Eric Gray, the park manager at Boyd Lake, worked with the Loveland Fire Dive Rescue Team on a mutually beneficial project at Boyd Lake State Park. The team came out to a reservoir to replace a dock cable for a handicap fishing dock as an agency training exercise, and they wound up saving the agency several $1,000s by not having to contract out commercial divers to do this. So it was a win-win for both the Loveland Fire Dive Rescue and for CPW, and we appreciate their willingness to work with us on that. Spring means weed fighting, weed warriors from all over the parks, all over northeast Colorado. I have examples from Chatfield and Staunton that are declaring war on weeds, and Chatfield conducted the second annual Dogs Off Leash area. They call it the Weedocopolis. Try saying that. And it was a big success. They have a lot of effort in a very small period of time where they get after the weeds. Again, it's their temporaries, permanent, and a lot of volunteers that get after it. They addressed 69 acres on the Dog Off Leash area, and that was over a 2-day period. And then Staunton worked with Columbine High School, and after that tragedy 18 years ago, that was on that anniversary, approximately 500 Columbine High School students participated in a day of community service throughout Metro Denver. And 8 of those students, and Jenny Zichterman, as they spent 4 hours mitigating invasive weeds at the park. So this shows some of the volunteers, and then also some of the staff and temporaries that were working with the Columbine High School's students at Staunton. So we appreciate all the help that we got there. Then a great event that happened at Cherokee State Wildlife Area. Mark Vieira, who's the biologist out of Fort Collins, was approached by the CSU student chapter of the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, and they were looking for a project. And Mark wound up talking with Justin Foster, the property technician at Cherokee, and they had a guzzler that was getting trampled by cattle, and so they wanted to fence them out, make it still accessible for wildlife to be able to get to. So the 17 students participated in putting up that fence. Took about a day to do that. They had a great time, got exposed to the area, and really enjoyed that opportunity. Our last one is a protester that showed up at North Sterling State Park. He came in unannounced and uninvited, and didn't appreciate the fact that we were doing construction around the area, but we did keep the archery range open. One other person was saying they thought he heard that there was free hay and didn't get any, and that's why he was upset. But at any rate, he left without any other incident. So with that, I will ask for questions.
Any questions, comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to make a schedule adjustment here because our regional manager reports were so edifying, and we're going to have Mr. Belardi do both his regional report and the Justin Burns Award. Then we'll break then we're going to go have the legal report just before noon from Mr. Monahan, and at some point we have to go into a brief executive session, so we'll do that just before we clear the room for lunch, or to clear the room for lunch. And then we're going to move Mr. Kenmeyer and the Northern Water Project to after Tracy Gipp, so roughly around 1:45 for the Northern Integrated Supply Project. Was that understandable for everybody? Okay, Mr. Velarde.
Chairman, Commissioners, good morning. Ron Velarde, Northwest Regional Manager, and welcome to Grand Junction and welcome to the Northwest Region. And I am going to keep mine short. I totally understand, and I get so I am going to keep mine pretty short. Obviously, I do not have a video. I'm sure you're well aware of that. But I do think we do have a problem with the presentation because 2 of the boys that will receive the awards are not here. They were scheduled to be here at 12:55, and I think they took us literally. So I'm sorry about that. The parents are here, or the parent of an individual, but not of the 2 boys that are receiving the awards.
So you want to move the award to after 1?
Chairman, I understand, and it's your call, but I just want to let you know that, they were planning on being here just before noon, and
Oh, so you're saying they're not here yet?
the 2 boys that are going to receive the award are not here.
All right.
And just let me confirm that, if you wouldn't mind, Chairman.
Yeah, that's fine. All right, so JT's going to check.
And this is kind of a complicated, kind of emotional thing, so
Sure,
I just want to make sure you understand
We'll
that.
do whatever you need to do.
Okay.
We'll do whatever you need to do.
Okay, all right. But I will, excuse me.
Or let me, if we need to, we can squeeze Tim in the afternoon and just.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure you understood, Chairman, because.
No, I understand. Yeah, it's fine. We'll do whatever you need to do.
Okay.
So proceed.
Wanted to start off with, obviously, and as you're well aware, May 20th is Public Lands Day, and for Public Lands Day, for this presentation, for what we're going to do with Cameo, and the Cameo, the first shot, and I know you've all been invited, and I just want to make sure that you know you've been invited. We'd like to have you all there. I understand the whole conflict thing, but it is going to be a big celebration for Grand County. I mean, we have the governor coming in, we have Executive Director Randall coming in. Obviously, our Director Broscheid will be there. And we'll probably have somewhere between 100 and 150 of local people, a lot of different shooting type of enthusiasts, county commissioners, mayors will be there, and we're planning a big celebration. So, and in addition to that, so even with just public land days, I mean, at Vega Reservoir, we're going to have an archery clinic. In fact, I think Executive Director Randall is planning on attending that. Area 8 personnel up out of the Roaring Fork are going to have a cleanup at the Carbondale Boat Ramp. State Forest is going to have a fishing clinic, trail maintenance, and a nature walk. And then at Steamboat Lake, they have a nature hike. And those are all things that are going to be put on by the Colorado Parks and Wildlife. There is going to be a bird walk, Audubon bird walk with the Audubon Society at Cameo, and it's almost, hope it isn't a conflict, but they're going to be up at Cameo when we're doing our first shot. And they're well aware, we've talked to them, and they're well aware of that. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we're also, and I wanted to make sure you're invited, and I know you've all been sent invitations to the CPW CDOT Summit, on Wildlife Summit. It's going to be in Silverthorne at the Pavilion, and that's on June the 20th and 21st. And that is, it's a continuation of this overpass and underpass and trying to minimize car, animal type accidents from a safety issue, and then also from a wildlife issue. But and it is a big deal. CDOT has been going out. Our personnel have been doing a great job. They have a committee that's put together, and we're working on the agenda. And as soon as we get the agenda, you'll see the agenda so that you'll know what's going to be there. Kind of and sometimes myself, live in a vacuum, but I found out in talking to the director of the Wyoming Game and Fish that they also had a summit on almost the same issue with almost the same agenda, because of the issues they're having in Wyoming with vehicle collisions with wildlife. They're a little ahead of us, but they also had a summit. They had it in Pinedale. We did have some CPW staff. Well, Dean Riggs attended, just so that he can get a feel for what we'll be doing or what we should be doing with our summit. But then while I was talking to the director of Wyoming, and he's telling me about this summit, which I did not know about, but he didn't know we were having a summit either, so we do need to communicate. I find out that there is also an international group that's having a summit in Salt Lake City, and it's basically, it's an international conference on ecology and transportation, and Utah and Wyoming are putting it on, and it will be in Salt Lake City. Pretty much the same issues that we're having. So this is a big deal, and I just think that, I know we've been a little bit far behind, but we're trying to catch up on this whole issue. And I think that maybe with this summit and maybe some decisions that come out of this summit and some recommendations, not only from CDOT, but from this body here, from the commission and the CPW, maybe we can get something going for the future regarding, and I'm talking statewide, not just in Northwest Colorado. I'm talking, we need to look at this statewide. There are issues statewide, and we need to minimize that. So it's just interesting that, you think that you're the only one doing it, and there's other states. Like I said, there's, and it's good. I will say that the decision was made that our summit will be with Colorado Parks and Wildlife, Colorado Department of Transportation, and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. They're also involved. So that's the three entities that are putting on this summit. We'll say that our PIO officer, Mike Porras, and I met with the Grand Junction Sentinel editorial board last week, discussing our financial sustainability bill, and it was a good meeting. We talked to the owner, the editor, city editor, other people that are on the editorial board, and they asked some good questions, some difficult questions that they should have. That's what their job is. But they ended up supporting the financial sustainability, and it was in the newspaper just this last Monday. So it was good for us. Grand Valley has been good. We've met with county commissioners, Club 20, Associated Governments in Northwest Colorado, and we've had a good reception. They understand the issues that we're having and are willing to help us out. So I think that's good. Might talk about the terrestrial section and along with the regional staff, we have been completing our LEC counts for greater sage grouse, sharp-tailed grouse, and also for the Gunnison sage grouse that's in our region. And we don't have but a minimum part as compared to the Southwest. Want to mention, and actually Alan beat me to it, that they're having that the bicycle race that's going to be on, and you'll hear more about it from Ellen. So that's a good deal. It is a moneymaker. A lot of people involved, and it's good for the Grand Valley, and they appreciate what Alan, his staff, CPW, and Highline State Park. I think it's a good deal. And I think I have other stuff, but I will keep it. I know you're in a hurry, and I don't blame you. So I guess I'll have to.
We're not, let's correct that. We're not in a hurry. We're just trying to accommodate everybody. So what we're going to do, Ron, if your team is not ready, we can do the public part of the legal report, use some time, then come back to you at 5 minutes to 12 or whatever.
And that'll work good, Chairman. Thank you very much, and thank you unless you have any other questions.
Anybody get questions for Ron? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for hosting us. Okay, so we're going to do the public part of the legal report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As typically I do, I sent around a written legal report regarding the legal matters that the Parks and Wildlife Commission is involved with. Happy to talk about any of those. I had planned on focusing mostly today with regard to the Wild Earth Guardians litigation that's ongoing, challenging the bear and lion studies that are under implementation by the Division of Parks and Wildlife. And I will hold that discussion for the executive session later this afternoon. All of those topics, or the topics involving the Wild Earth Guardians, I do want to discuss in executive session and not in open meetings. But I do have a couple things that I wanted to talk about in open meetings. And the first is on your agenda, the transition of the Parks Wildlife Trust Land Unit at the Attorney General's office. I'm stepping down, as you know, at the end of June, so we've been undertaking a process to hire a new First Assistant Attorney General for the unit. The application process has closed. We've actually had a first round of interviews. I participated in those. We're going to have a second round of interviews this coming Monday. They've identified 2 finalists for the position. We'll be talking to them on Monday. And I can assure you, I can't disclose their names as of yet, but I can assure you that they are very well qualified, very talented, both better looking than I am, and both come with a sunnier disposition as well. So whoever takes this position, I think that you'll be in very good hands between those 2 applicants. The other thing I just wanted to mention was Kevin Edwards' passing last week, and I just wanted to let you know there's a letter from the governor in the works. I've talked to the chair. The chair has indicated that that letter should also include a statement recognizing Kevin on behalf of the Parks and Wildlife Commission. I've passed that along, so I think that should be done by today. The other thing was just express my appreciation for moving the agenda around so that I could complete my stuff today and go to the memorial tomorrow. It was a very difficult week at our office. It's easier when you anticipate something like this, but when it comes this suddenly, it's much harder to process, and it's been really helpful to get the expressions from the commissioners and from Parks and Wildlife staff, and it's been very helpful for me. It's been very helpful for my unit, and I just wanted to pass that along.
Well said, Mr. Monahan. I was have known Kevin for as long as I've served on this commission, and because we both lived in Boulder often, or not often, but sometimes rode the express bus between Boulder and downtown, and I recall dining with him after some commission meeting several years ago, and came to learn of his, he was quite an athlete, not just a skier, but a triathlete, Ironman level competitor. So this is, and as a skier myself, and I'm familiar with the area at Loveland where Kevin was found, this is very real to me as well. So it's a great tragedy to lose somebody in this kind of circumstance, to lose a friend, to lose a colleague, so our very best thoughts for he and his family and friends. And I suggest we just take a moment of silence, both for Kevin Edwards, and I think one of our regional managers mentioned a technician that passed away. So if we'll just take a moment. Okay, thank you. So what we'll do now, if Mr. Velarde's ready, is the Justin Burns. By the way, does any other commissioner want to say anything about Mr. Edwards, or any words? Okay, if not, Mr. Velarde.
Chairman, Commissioners, first of all, I appreciate having this opportunity to do this. What we want to do is, this is Michael Blanc. He's our District Wildlife Manager in Colburn. This is the Justin Burns Memorial Hunt that we selected two individual boys, and the parents are here. The Justin Burns family is here, and then the two boys that we're going to give the awards to. So they're selected because they sort of epitomize what Justin, the way Justin was, the life he led. And they were selected by the CPW and Mr. Corey Burns, the father of Justin Burns. So that's what we want to honor today. And Michael, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, thanks for letting us do this. It means a lot to me and to the family, Burns family. I didn't ever get to meet Justin, but I know him pretty well now. Just an amazing kid, and I want to make this an annual thing if we can keep this going, and just to maybe shed some light on Justin's life and his family, and I want this to be something that just continues, and maybe something that these recipients can put on their resume. Maybe it'll help them get their first job, you know. Just want it to be a good honor for these kids. Thank you.
You want to bring them up?
Yeah. Which one are we doing first? Let's get the Burns family to come on up, please. Corey, can you introduce your family, please?
I'm Corey Burns. This is my wife Carla, daughter Liliana, son Tegan.
Let's bring up the two recipients.
You bet.
McLeods and the Wagners. Come on up, guys. Whole family. This is Keith McLeod, Brett Wagner. We've got Jamie, his mom, and Mark is going to be Brett's dad here. Ron?
Well, first of all, okay, Keith?
Yeah.
And this is from us. This is from all of us, okay? Congratulations, Justin Burns Memorial. All right?
Sorry.
That's this one. All righty. We got the right one. Honest, we do. All righty?
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good job, Keith.
Want to say anything?
It was a great hunt. It was really fun.
Good. Glad you enjoyed it. And this one is for Brett. All right? You bet. Thank you. Come on up. Okay. Come on up. Oh, there we go.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. You have anything to say?
It was a fun hunt, and I didn't really know Justin too well, but I know that he was a big influence on our school and on the music program that he was in. So I just want to say thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for letting us do this.
Thank you.
Congratulations and thank you as well.
Thank you, bud.
It's good to see you again.
Thank you. That was very meaningful. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you
Very
Ron.
much for
Thank you.
this chairman and commission for allowing us to do it. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So it's now, by virtue of moving, thank you, Mr. Kenmeyer, to this afternoon, we get back on schedule in a fashion. But what I'm going to suggest, because I've observed you're all pretty fast eaters and you love being punctual, that since it's 7 minutes to 12, that we're going to reconvene at 10 minutes to 1 at 12:50, reconvene to capture a few minutes off the clock. So 12:50, okay? And I guess our lunch is next door. Okay, let's go. There we go. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Your son was killed.
Go back tomorrow morning.
That's the number. You said you didn't want it.
you.